Chapter 100. After verifying how Gu Fei had displayed the magic damage of the Dark Knight flowing light sword, Imperial Divine Cry felt that it was of great significance. He had a satisfied look on his face, and his spirit was even higher. He continued to explain to Gu Fei the many techniques of a mage in battle. All of this was the conclusion of his past experience in the game. Although all the games had their own merits, there were not many variations when it came to the general design of the sorcerer class. There were only some differences in the skills, but the characteristics of the sorcerer were still the same. Therefore, all he had to do was to select the usable sorcerer skills based on the parallel world. The few spells that had appeared in the parallel world so far were as common as they could be. It was not hard to imagine how thoroughly the players had studied these skills. The Imperial Heaven Divine Cry listed out the characteristics of a few spells, regardless of whether Gu Fei could remember them or not. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 were listed out. Gu Fei was actually fascinated as he listened. The reason why he was suddenly interested was because these methods and techniques sounded like a new type of martial arts to him. In the past, the sorcerer skills were all used by fingers dancing on the keyboard and mouse. Gu Fei was not interested in that. However, in the parallel world, the characters had to observe, move, and release everything on their own. This was obviously very different. However, after Yutian Shenming talked about the theory and dragged a small monster over for Gu Fei to practice, the two of them were quickly stunned. The steps that Yutian Shenming asked for and the timing of the attack were all simulated by Gu Fei. This was already enough to surprise Yutian Shenming, but what surprised them the most was that the final application of the skill failed. Perhaps this was not a failure, but the skill obviously did not achieve the effect that Yutian Shenming had expected in the parallel world. Yutian Shenming neglected a very real problem in the parallel world. The players had lost the omniscient view that they had in the previous online games. The players here were no longer facing a single monitor. Instead, they were looking at 6 different directions. This seems like there are still a lot of places that need to be modified. Yutian Shenming muttered, "You can't see what's behind you, can you? Damn, this is troublesome." Before Gu Fei could say anything, Yutian Shenming was already going crazy. "There are some things that I need to try out myself, but now. Yutian Shenming threw the longbow in his hand to the ground. "Fuck archers. It doesn't matter. Just tell me these techniques and I'll try them myself," Gu Fei said. In fact, Gu Fei was the expert in observing, positioning, and seizing the opportunity to launch an attack in such a realistic situation. However, when he saw Yutian Shenming's "I'm the best in the world" look whenever he mentioned mages, he could not bear to provoke him further. To be honest, Yutian Shenming did not choose to be a mage this time, which might be something to be thankful for. The brand new game mode made many of the techniques that could be used when typing on the keyboard unreliable. Players were faced with researching new battle styles and techniques. In this aspect, Gu Fei, a newbie in the game, had become an expert. Physicists were usually divided into theoretical physicists and experimental physicists based on their focus. The players in the game often had similar differences. For example, Brother Yu was an extreme theorist. However, in the parallel world, the players were forced to be divided into 2 groups due to their own abilities and adaptability. Former experts like Sword Demon could only be considered theoretical physicists in this brand new game mode. Gu Fei, on the other hand, was an experimental scholar. Moreover, he was a top experimental scholar. The relationship between Yutian Shenming and Gu Fei was like that of a theoretical physicist and an experimental physicist. One provided the theory, while the other put the theory into practice. It was just that in the parallel world, experiments were much more difficult than theories. In the current situation, some of Yutian Shenming's theories had already been proven to be failures, and Gu Fei himself was asking to take on the role of a theorist. The two left the leveling area and returned to Cloud City. Yutian Shenming led Gu Fei to an unusually lively street. On both sides of the wide street were players sitting on the ground. In front of them were cloth with all kinds of things on it. Most of them were equipment and raw materials for professions. "There's actually a place like this," Gu Fei exclaimed. He had seen a lot of street stalls, But he did not know that there was such a street with so many stalls. The main city was very big. Gu Fei traveled between two places every day, so there were many places that he did not visit. Why not leave it at the auction house? Gu Fei asked Yutian Shenming. The auction house system charges fees based on the price you set, calculated by the number of days. So, if you leave an unsold item there, you will definitely lose money, Yutian Shenming said. I see. Gu Fei nodded. Yutian Shenming looked at him. I always suspected that you were a noob, but now, I believe it. Gu Fei smiled and did not think much of it. From the perspective of online gaming, he was indeed a noob, and a very unmotivated noob. He had been playing for a while, but his knowledge of online gaming had not improved at all. Yutian Shenming finally stopped in front of a seemingly large stall. The goods in this stall were more dazzling than the other players' stalls. Gu Fei glanced at the owner and immediately understood. It was a handsome man in a white robe, but it was obvious that he was an NPC. The smile on his face was too professional. Yutian Shenming bought a large number of small books and quills. Gu Fei now knew the origins of these things and couldn't help but sigh. Gu Fei could imagine what Yutian Shenming was going to do with these things. He couldn't help but admire Yutian Shenming's deep knowledge in the game. Just focusing on mages required so many books to record. How many martial arts manuals could that be? Gu Fei calculated. You're going to write all of your techniques in these books? Gu Fei still asked. Yutian Shenming nodded. I don't think you'll be able to remember all of them verbally. Gu Fei nodded. Then I'll have to trouble you. Yutian Shenming's eyes suddenly lit up. Do you think these techniques of mine can be sold for money? Is there movable type printing in the game? Gu Fei asked. Yutian Shenming's eyes instantly dimmed. These techniques that were going to be largely eliminated in the parallel world couldn't even make use of this little bit of residual heat. Gu Fei patted him on the shoulder. When I'm done, we can start a class. I'll give you half of the tuition fees. Will that work? Yutian Shenming was startled. This is my profession. Gu Fei smiled. But then it's a deal. I'll go write the teaching materials for you now. Yutian Shenming waved the small books in his hand. I'll walk around and see what the source of students is like. Gu Fei said. Yutian Shenming cursed and left the trading street first. Gu Fei, on the other hand, wanted something new and continued to wander the streets. Listening to the players haggle, he felt like he was in a market, just that the air was fresher. Violent flight. As he walked, he suddenly heard someone shout. Gu Fei already knew who it was from this strange name. He turned around and saw Shi Xiaotian wearing a bandit's cloak. His face was covered, and he was squatting in a corner sneakily. There was also a shabby stall in front of him. Gu Fei looked around vigilantly. It didn't seem like there were any traps, so he carefully walked up to the stall. What are you doing here? Gu Fei was puzzled. He suspected that this guy was up to something again. I'm selling stuff. Shi Xiaotian pushed the stall in front of him. Gu Fei glanced at it. They were all shabby trinkets. He didn't even need appraisal to know that they weren't good stuff. The best equipment in the game could actually be distinguished with the naked eye. Especially weapons. Most of the best weapons were covered in a layer of light. Gu Fei's Dark Streamer Sword, Sword Demon's Frostbite's Memory, and Silver Moon's Sword of the King were all like this. Yutian Shenming didn't think that his bow was the best because it didn't have such a layer of light. Since we're so familiar with each other, just tell me what you're doing. Gu Fei squatted in front of her. I'm really just selling stuff. Shi Xiaotian said as she pulled down the veil covering her face. You need to cover your face to sell stuff? Gu Fei asked. Because I'm low-key. Shi Xiaotian said. Really? Gu Fei felt that there must be a reason. He got up and looked around to see if there were any aggressive pursuers. Perhaps this girl was using him as a scapegoat again. In the end, he didn't find anything. The surroundings were peaceful. At this moment, a person dashed in front of the stall and handed something to Shi Xiaotian. Sister Xiaotian, how much does this cost? Shi Xiaotian glanced at it. About 12 gold coins. It'll be very popular if it's sold for 10 gold coins. What if you want to trick Little White? The person smirked. Little White won't be fooled by this. Little White will think that it's useless trash, Shi Xiaotian said. The person sighed and left. A group of swindlers? Gu Fei asked Shi Xiaotian. Shi Xiaotian rolled her eyes. Just as she was about to speak, another person came over. Help me see how much this thing costs. Shi Xiaotian glanced at it and shook her head. Your level is too high. I can't use appraisal on you. The person was about to hand the thing to Shi Xiaotian, but Gu Fei quickly stopped him. What are you doing? The person obviously regarded Gu Fei as a robber and hurriedly put the thing back into her pocket. You're giving it to anybody? Be careful that you don't get it back, Gu Fei said meaningfully. The person was dumbfounded. Are you kidding me? As she spoke, she took out the thing again and handed it to Shi Xiaotian warily while guarding against Gu Fei. Gu Fei also put his hand into his pocket, ready to draw it out at any time. Shi Xiaotian accepted the thing and looked at it. 20 gold coins should be enough, he said casually and handed it back. Thank you. The person took it and glanced at Gu Fei. You're crazy. The person mumbled and walked away. Gu Fei was naturally depressed and squatted next to Shi Xiaotian again. What's wrong? You don't like something that's worth 20 gold coins? Smart. Shi Xiaotian said, it seems that you're quite talented. Gu Fei rolled her eyes. However, Shi Xiaotian's hand had already touched Gu Fei's body. What are you doing? Gu Fei was shocked. Did this swindler not only want money but also sex? Your robe is not bad. Shi Xiaotian rubbed Gu Fei's robe with 2 fingers and said, the current equipment definitely doesn't have this quality. Where did you get it? Really? How much do you think it should be? Gu Fei said. I can't see its attributes. Shi Xiaoyan continued to look at it and said, take it off and let me see. She waited for a long time and didn't get a response. Her gaze left the robe and looked at Gu Fei's face. He was looking at her with a cold smile. Shi Xiaoyan suddenly understood and immediately laughed coldly. I don't think you dare. Such crude provocation is useless against me. Gu Fei said. I'm not lying to you. I've never seen clothes made of this material. It's definitely top quality. Let me see. Shi Xiaotian said. See what? You can't take it out after seeing it. Gu Fei didn't trust Shi Xiaotian at all. If you don't believe me, then forget it. Shi Xiaotian turned his head. Wait, how much is this thing worth? Gu Fei pulled out the Dark Knight lightsaber from his pocket. He did this on purpose. Weapons were always the most valuable of all equipment. Not to mention, the Dark Knight lightsaber's grade was even higher than the Moonlight Spirit robe. Gu Fei felt that it was quite interesting that a scammer could see it but not eat it. The dark glow of the Dark Knight lightsaber was enough to explain the situation. Many of the surrounding players' gazes were attracted by it. In the trade street, there had never been such a top-quality item. This street was simply a place for commoner players to purchase and trade for the items they needed. Currently, in the trading market, only warriors with money, studios, and families had the ability to buy exquisite equipment. Moreover, there was basically no market for such equipment. If there really was a top-quality equipment, they wouldn't have to worry about selling it in the auction house or the exchange house. There was no need to bring it to the commoner's trade street. When Gu Fei pulled out the sword, many people's eyes lit up. They all looked at Gu Fei with different gazes. However, no one could understand Gu Fei's true intentions. Most of them thought that they had encountered a super noob that only appeared once in 100 years. They thought that the top-quality equipment was ordinary and wanted to sell it here. This opportunity could not be missed. Many people had already abandoned the items they were buying and were starting to move over. A few pairs noticed each other's intentions and began to glare angrily at each other. There were quite a few people with these thoughts. The crowd quickly gathered around Shi Xiaotian's little stall. Some of the more experienced players saw this and cursed, not good. Tricking the noobs out of their top-quality equipment was a great skill. The first thing they had to do was not show their eagerness. The noobs were just noobs that didn't understand the game well. They weren't idiots. If they didn't show it, it would be very easy for the other side to realize the value of the item in their hands. At this moment, no one had the time to show off. However, with the crowd gathering like wolves and tigers, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, no matter who went up to casually talk to the noobs about the item in their hands, they would easily realize that the item in their hands wasn't ordinary. However, there was nothing they could do. After all, everyone wanted to get the top-quality equipment in the noob's hands. It was obviously impossible to get the others to move aside and go up to chat. At this moment, it was a competition of who could brace themselves and make the first move. As soon as this thought appeared, a few people jumped out of the crowd and rushed towards Gu Fei. The others didn't want to be outdone. After a short while, Gu Fei and Shi Xiaotian, who were still squatting in place, felt the light in front of them dim. They turned their heads and saw that the two of them were surrounded. Gu Fei was the number 1 PK player in the parallel world. Shi Xiaotian was a professional swindler whose hobby was deception. Obviously, the two of them were hated to the bone by some people. Now that they were surrounded, even though they were quick-witted, they couldn't see through the minds of so many people. Their hearts skipped a beat, thinking that they were being targeted by their enemies. Gu Fei clenched the sword in his hand, and Shi Xiaotian clenched Gu Fei's robe. The encirclement was too narrow. It wouldn't be easy to break out. Gu Fei complained inwardly. Also, his spell was too slow. Before the heavenly fire will came down, it would have been torn apart by so many people. I was too careless. Gu Fei regretted it. He was so focused on seducing Shi Xiaotian with the exquisite item that he didn't notice the signs around him. I'll act according to the situation. If the enemy doesn't move, I won't move. While Gu Fei was thinking, the enemies were already moving. One of them smiled kindly and extended his hand. "Brother, how much are you going to sell this sword for?" Gu Fei and Shi Xiaotian were startled, but immediately reacted and let out a sigh of relief. Gu Fei only knew that the other side didn't have any ill intentions, but Shi Xiaotian understood the situation of the commoners' trading street and instantly understood what these people were thinking. She knew that the other side had come with ill intentions. "This sword isn't for sale." Gu Fei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Brother, I'll pay a high price." One of them said. "Oh, how much?" Gu Fei was curious and asked. The man pondered for a moment, then as if he had made up his mind, he gritted his teeth and said, "I'll pay 20 gold coins." Gu Fei was startled. Even if he didn't understand the market, he still knew that the Night Streak sword wasn't only worth 20 gold coins. 20 gold coins might be a huge sum for normal players, but it wasn't the case for experts. The most expensive wine in the tavern could be bought for 20 gold coins. Many of the surrounding people looked at this 20 gold coins with disdain. With so many people surrounding him, the other side would know that the item in his hand wouldn't only be worth 20 gold coins. However, everyone noticed that Gu Fei was frozen in place, as if he was hesitating. Their hearts trembled. Could this be the noob of noobs that only appeared once in 100 years? Not only did he know nothing about the game, but he was also naturally dumb? The crowd was boiling. 20 gold coins, aren't you being too greedy? Brother, I'll pay 21 gold coins. 21 gold coins? Just one more? Stingy, I'll pay 23. 25. 30. Look at you guys, 50 gold coins. Someone patted his chest. 50 gold coins was already a huge sum on the commoners' trading street. Most of the players were about to flee when they heard this number. However, seeing that the superb equipment was in the hands of a noob with naturally dumb attributes, the players had a thought in their minds. They wouldn't lose out even if they used cash to trade for this item. They could definitely sell it for a high price if they changed hands. With that thought in mind, nobody cared about how many gold coins they had in their wallets, and they only cared about bidding. 50, 55, 60, 80, 100, in the blink of an eye, the bid had reached 500 gold coins. Currently, superb equipment in the parallel world could be traded for more than 1,000 gold coins. If they could really buy it for 500 gold coins, it would definitely be a profitable deal. However, at this level of bidding, the bidder already had another thought in his mind. The sword in Gu Fei's hand had a layer of halo, which was a sign of superb equipment. However, nobody had actually seen the attributes of the sword. There were many appraisal experts around, but none of them could appraise the attributes of the longsword in Gu Fei's hand. How could a noob with naturally dumb attributes improve appraisal to such a high level? Or perhaps, A noob with naturally dumb attributes had a higher level than everyone present? Could it be that he was level 31? Everyone suddenly felt that this natural daze in front of them was not that simple. Although he had a dazed expression on his face when everyone was calling out the price. There was a sudden pause in the bidding. Everyone stopped talking at the same time. They realized that things were not as they had expected. They all wanted to see the other party's reaction when the bidding stopped. 500 gold coins. Brother, this price is already the limit. I don't think anyone is willing to pay a higher price, right? Someone said, looking around and winking. Everyone knew what he was thinking, so they cooperated and didn't speak, waiting for Gu Fei's reaction. Before Gu Fei could speak, Shi Xiaoyan suddenly blinked. You see, there are actually a lot of liars in this world. Shi Xiaotian said. Chapter 101. Even though Gu Fei didn't understand the state of the game very well, in this type of situation where people were calling out bids one after another, the only person who wouldn't understand what these people were thinking was probably Little Rain. These people just wanted to take advantage of Gu Fei's ignorance and take advantage of him. Honestly speaking, it wasn't wrong to say that they were tricking him. Shi Xiaotian's words exposed the truth. Everyone's faces naturally didn't look good. They immediately realized that Gu Fei sitting there without saying a word wasn't because he was ignorant. Maybe he was just pretending to be stupid. After being laughed at for so long, everyone didn't feel good in their hearts. Some people had already left in embarrassment, but there was still a portion that stared angrily at Gu Fei. In this type of simulated environment, many people's EQ plummeted. After all, in this world, the feeling of embarrassment and humiliation was just as strong as in reality, but it wasn't restricted by the many objective factors that existed in reality. If I don't like you, I can hit you. If I don't like you, I can beat you up. Sometimes the online game was an unreasonable world. Through simulated technology, this unreasonable world became lively. However, the rules of this world didn't change at all. Battle was the most important thing. This was the main theme of the game. The concept of strength was very broad. It could be an individual's strength, a guild's strength, or it could be a certain power that appeared at a certain time, at a certain place. November 21st, 13:45 p.m. Cloud City's Cloud Pattern Street, the trading street that players talked about, had such a powerful group appear. Or rather, it was a group that thought they had strength. Because strength was measured in relative terms. The group of people in front of them clearly thought that with their numbers, they were a powerful group against the opponent they were about to face. Their opponent, the squatting Gu Fei, had already stood up. Most of the people realized that they couldn't achieve their goal of scamming the noobs and left in embarrassment. But there was a small portion of people who didn't achieve their goal and felt like they had been tricked. They wanted to stay and argue with Gu Fei. Gu Fei was helpless. Like the main character, he righteously said, "What do you want?" Angry stare. No one spoke. It was only because they coincidentally formed a group that they coincidentally had the same mentality. At this time, they only had a little eye contact, and they had not yet elected their spokesperson. If there's nothing else, I'm leaving. Gu Fei said. Wait. Someone finally spoke. The crowd spread out in all directions, blocking all possible exits for Gu Fei. With the same mentality and the same intentions, they could instantly build tacit cooperation. Gu Fei looked at these people calmly. It seemed like they wanted to fight. Unfortunately, using violence to curb violence was Gu Fei's hobby. Ever since he was young, his father had taken advantage of the fact that they were a martial arts family and liked to teach him a lesson. However, he also forbade him from casually fighting with others outside. Gu Fei had always thought that he wouldn't get this opportunity before he raised his son. Thank you online games, thank you parallel worlds, thank you to the great author, Butterfly Blue, for making Gu Fei's dreams a reality. The two faced each other. Gu Fei crooked his finger at Shi Xiaotian. What's the matter? Shi Xiaotian asked. What are the PK rules? Explain them to me. Gu Fei said. The crowd was in an uproar. Too naive, too arrogant. Everyone thought. Shi Xiaotian was also startled, not knowing where to start. After a while, she slowly said, kill a person, PK points increase by 1. Nonsense. Gu Fei rolled his eyes at her, How would I not know that? I mean, how can it not increase PK points? From what Hongshan Yixiao said that day, it was obvious that killing people would not increase PK points. Gu Fei remembered to check it out at the time, but forgot about it afterwards and did not check the website. Counterattacking after being attacked doesn't increase PK points. Killing people with PK points doesn't increase PK points. Shi Xiaotian said. Killing people with PK points doesn't increase PK points? Gu Fei was at a loss. He did not believe that one of the two people he killed with Heavenly Flame Wheel in Moonlit Night City did not have PK points. That's for someone without PK points. Those with PK points are exceptions. Shi Xiaotian said. Gu Fei was relieved. He gripped the sword in his hand and turned to look at the people surrounding him. Everyone was startled. No one made a move. You want to kill us, but you don't want to increase your PK points. How can it be so easy? I can't make the first move. The crowd thought. In that instant, the crowd got the relationship between the two sides wrong, thinking that Gu Fei was surrounding them and was ready to take it out on them. After waiting for a long time, the other side did not respond. Gu Fei was quite disappointed. To be honest, he loved fighting and PK, but he could not be an unreasonable person, so he could only hope that someone didn't like him. Thinking of this, Gu Fei couldn't help but miss the PK atmosphere in Moonlit Night City. He missed the Black Hand mercenary group that still wanted to rob him for some reason. How were they doing now? Gu Fei was melancholy. He started to feel melancholy just 3 hours after he left Moonlit Night City. If you don't want to fight, then let's disperse. Gu Fei sighed honestly. This regret and calmness undoubtedly increased the other side's suspicions. Of course, a temporary small group had its shortcomings. The most obvious was the lack of trust and understanding between each other. Gu Fei was a guy with an exquisite weapon. He had no confidence in fighting one-on-one and needed to rely on the strength of others. At this time, they would inevitably think, I'm fine, but I wonder how strong the others are? Everyone looked around hesitantly, looking at each other and thinking, this idiot probably can't do it. Looking at his eyes, he wants to rely on others. In this way, everyone felt that they had the ability, but the others couldn't. The conclusion they could only come to was to give up. At the same time, they rejoiced that they hadn't been impulsive. Unknowingly, the people surrounding Gu Fei became fewer and fewer. They came arrogantly and left quietly. Not long after, they left Gu Fei alone. How depressing! Gu Fei said gloomily. A few hoots and a sigh had scared the enemy away. Could it be that he had acted too actively and was too conspicuous? Don't worry, Shi Xiaotian said. If you want to fight, there will be a chance. You mean those guys over there? Gu Fei swept his eyes over a corner of the trading street. You noticed them? Shi Xiaotian was surprised. I noticed them a long time ago. Gu Fei said. Then what are you worried about? Shi Xiaotian said. Those guys can only be considered as appointments. They could have fought 2 rounds, but now they're missing 1. How regretful! Gu Fei said unwillingly. Violent flight. Shi Xiaotian sighed in admiration. Gu Fei squatted down again and continued to speak with anticipation. Why aren't they coming over yet? They won't come over so easily, Shi Xiaotian said. You seem to know them, Gu Fei said. There's a group of people in Cloud City that once they've set their eyes on someone's equipment, they'll look for a chance to kill you and drop your equipment. I think they've set their eyes on you, Shi Xiaotian said. Is that so? Gu Fei glanced in that direction again. The people that had been gathered together had already dispersed. Only one person remained, nonchalantly setting up a stall. The other guys had already disappeared. They won't easily make a move and won't give up easily. They won't stop until you drop the sword in your hand, Shi Xiaotian said. Gu Fei knew the importance of not showing off his wealth and keeping a low profile. But at the same time, he also discovered the benefits of having an exquisite equipment. It could tempt people with evil thoughts to come over and provoke him. He would take the opportunity to punish evil and uphold good, maintaining world peace. In short, there would be a fight to fight. Right now they've dispersed. They left one person behind, probably to keep an eye on you. He'll find a quiet night when you're alone to make a move on you. Shi Xiaotian said, I'll kill you today, kill you tomorrow, kill you the day after. In short, I'll remember you and kill you until I get the sword in your hand. Gu Fei nodded and then asked, You're with them? Fuck you. Shi Xiaotian was anxious. Gu Fei was dumbfounded. Don't go on and on. I'm not as bad as you think I am. Shi Xiaotian said angrily. Gu Fei's expression was a bit unnatural. After a while, he said, Then what are you doing here with your face covered? Selling things. Shi Xiaotian pounded the ground. Do I have to cover my face to sell things? Gu Fei asked. Do you want to know why you're covering your face? Shi Xiaotian said and immediately tore off the veil on his face. He shouted, I'm selling equipment, it's cheap. Anyone who wants it, come take a look. The crisp female voice drew everyone's attention, and several people's eyes immediately lit up. One of them had already flown over and bent down to pick up the junk on Shi Xiaotian's stall. She then said, Not bad, I'll take all of it. Name your price. Beautiful. 10 gold coins. Shi Xiaotian said expressionlessly. No problem. The person directly wrapped up the cloth on the ground and took all of Shi Xiaotian's items. He then counted out the gold coins and generously handed them over. The surrounding players' eyes shone with envy. Beauty, I've bought everything. You don't have anything to do anymore. Let's go for a drink or two. The person who bought the items didn't leave and continued to dawdle. Fuck off. Shi Xiaoyan almost spat his saliva on the person's face. The crowd was in an uproar. The junk on Shi Xiaoyan's stall was just some ordinary goods. Added together, it was only worth 10 gold coins. However, these items covered quite a few professions. In theory, no one would buy them all at the same time. Now that this had happened, it was clear that the drunkard had ulterior motives. 10 gold coins wasn't a small amount of money for a normal player. To spend so much money just to strike up a conversation with someone, it could be seen that this person was also a normal player with tens of thousands of dollars. Everyone was envious of his luck with women. They didn't want to put on a good show, but this girl in front of them was extremely unrestrained. It was fine if she didn't want to go on a date after selling her stuff, but she actually cursed at him. Only Gu Fei sighed inwardly. Shi Xiaotian was clearly venting his anger on this person. Could it be that he had wronged her this time? So, she was just going to set up a stall here and sell some trash? Gu Fei was at a loss. But no matter what, the anger of the buyer in front of him continued to rise. It was obvious that no matter how alluring the girl was, no one would be able to tolerate her acting like this for no reason. The big brother in front of him spent 10 gold coins for nothing. He was almost spat on, and was even laughed at by a group of people. Of course he wouldn't be able to control himself. Shi Xiaotian tossed a bag of equipment that he had just bought to Shi Xiaotian. Then he reached into his pocket and took out an axe that was even larger than Xiao Yu's. He straightened his back and gathered his junqi in his dantian. Then, he bent his legs slightly and held the axe in his right hand so that it was at a 45-degree angle to the ground. Gu Fei, who was extremely experienced in combat, immediately knew what Shi Xiaotian was up to. He hurriedly raised his sword to block the attack while grabbing Shi Xiaotian with his other hand. Whirlwind Slash came as expected. From this, it could be seen that this warrior's combat experience wasn't low. An experienced warrior would always ensure that they had a certain amount of anger stored on them to activate their skills. Whirlwind Slash wasn't only the warrior's highest attack skill, it was also their ultimate life-saving skill. It was much more useful than the warrior's defensive skill, Entrench. Blocking Whirlwind Slash was already a skill that Gu Fei was extremely familiar with. Even when he was sent flying, he could still maintain his elegant posture. But this time, something unexpected happened. Whirlwind Slash was blocked, and he was sent flying, but it was a muddy flight. The reason for that was because even though Gu Fei was grabbing onto Shi Xiaotian with all his might, his strength was simply too low. There was no way for him to drag Shi Xiaotian into the air. Instead, he was dragged down by Shi Xiaotian. In the end, he managed to borrow strength and was sent flying, but he didn't fly. The two were like groundhogs, sliding on the ground, causing dust to fly everywhere. Gu Fei was still fine. At the very least, he was standing. Although the momentum was fast, Gu Fei's agility wasn't low, so he was able to switch his feet. Shi Xiaotian, on the other hand, was in a miserable state. Caught off guard, he was dragged to the ground the moment he flew out. He was basically gliding along the way. What was even more pitiful was that the equipment that the warrior had dropped on her was still there. At this moment, it was hanging on her thief's cloak, jingling as she flew. Because he was dragging a person, it affected Gu Fei's performance. He didn't control the direction of his strength well, and was sent flying, immediately crashing into a wall. Gu Fei's back hurt, and he felt as if his bones were falling apart. Looking down, he saw Shi Xiaotian flying towards him like a missile. In the blink of an eye, he was about to hit the wall. Gu Fei hurriedly stretched out his foot and stepped on it, changing the direction of his strength. Shi Xiaotian rolled and came to a stop. "Sorry," Gu Fei said. "Big bro, hurry up and get down." Someone suddenly replied. Gu Fei looked down and hurriedly dodged to the side. There was still a person under his feet. Thinking about the two sides of the street were filled with players setting up stalls, Gu Fei rushed over. Seeing that the situation wasn't good, the person wanted to dodge, but after sitting cross-legged for a day, his legs and feet were numb. He rolled and crawled on the ground, lowering his body. In the end, he was stepped on by Gu Fei. I'm sorry. Gu Fei quickly apologized again. The person rolled on the ground, facing the sky, and let out a breath. "It's fine." Looking at Shishaun, he crawled up from the ground, and after a while said, "I'd rather be chopped to death." Everyone was in an uproar again, because no one thought that these two guys were actually still alive. They could see Gu Fei raise his sword to block, but no one could see the timing of the slash. In their eyes, these two were sent flying by whirlwind slash. Even if they weren't dead, they shouldn't be far from death. Although they looked a bit haggard, their lives were obviously not in danger. The warrior had already put away his whirlwind slash, but he had no intention of giving up. He strode toward Shishaun. Gu Fei looked at her and asked, "If I cut him now, it won't add PK points, right?" Shishaotian was stunned for a moment before nodding his head. She also didn't know what happened during the whirlwind slash. Looking at her health, she knew that Gu Fei had grabbed her and dodged it. Others couldn't identify Gu Fei's class, but she knew that Gu Fei was a mage. Currently, mages were a class that countered warriors, so it shouldn't be too difficult to deal with a warrior one-on-one. But no matter what, mages shouldn't use the word cut, which puzzled Shi Xiaotian. Gu Fei was about to step forward when suddenly 3 people rushed out and stood between Shi Xiaotian and the warrior. Gu Fei glanced and saw that one of the people who had asked Shi Xiaotian about the price was among them. "Friend, this might be a misunderstanding. Don't be in such a hurry to attack." One of them said. "Go to hell, get lost." The warrior said the words that Shi Xiaotian had just said. He raised his battle axe and activated charge. The person who spoke was immediately knocked back several steps, and after stabilizing, he was still dizzy and unable to move. The people on the left and right saw that it didn't make sense, so they hurriedly attacked. The warrior on the left wielded a one-handed sword and also activated charge. The thief on the right swung his dagger, attempting to go behind the warrior and use backstab. The charge hit the warrior. However, the stun effect of charge didn't have a 100% chance of success. This was related to the proficiency of the skill, the opponent's level, and equipment. Although this charge hit, it didn't cause a stun. The big axe warrior was also abnormally brave. He ignored the warrior who had just used charge and turned his head to chop at the thief who was attempting to go behind him. At the same time, he moved his feet to guard against the thief's movement. Just like that, the two sides clashed, and the two were obviously not strong enough. In the blink of an eye, the big axe warrior had control of the situation, and the two were forced to retreat. The weapons of both sides clashed and tangled, causing Gu Fei to shake his head. How was this a battle? This was simply a fight between children. He broke a branch or a bamboo pole and treated it like a divine weapon. He waved the pole around and bumped it, but he didn't hit the other party. In the end, the one whose pole broke first would be the loser. Gu Fei remembered that after watching the TV series, The Return of the Condor Heroes, The children in his neighbor's house practiced Chuanjian swordsmanship and fairy swordsmanship in this way. It was so similar to the scene in front of him. Gu Fei was anxious, and the two who were defeated were even more anxious. They turned back and shouted at Xishan, "Sisterton, hurry up and leave." Xishan shouted, "I'm coming." She put her hand in her pocket and wanted to use a weapon to help. Gu Fei had already stepped forward and held her down. "Let me do it." Xiaotian looked at him, and Gu Fei smiled at her. "You're quite popular," Gu Fei said, then turned to the two guys and shouted, "You two, get out of the way, I'll fight him one-on-one." The two had probably been waiting for this moment for a long time. Regardless of who was shouting at them, they quickly found a chance to retreat to the side. Gu Fei coughed, took a few steps forward, and stood in front of the warrior. The warrior also steadied himself. At this time, he was in a murderous mood, beating the three of them to a pulp, and this was the time when his confidence was inflated. But when he saw the dark halo of the night streamer in Gu Fei's hand, his heart could not help but skip a beat. The three just now were obviously far inferior to him in terms of level and equipment, which was why they were easily bullied by him. But now, this guy actually had an exquisite weapon in his hand, which he really did not notice earlier. The warrior calmed himself down and quickly cast an identification spell on Gu Fei. However, he could not find anything. He used his eyes to judge, but fell into a state of confusion again. He had never seen a black robe before, and it seemed to be a mage's robe. But the weapon in his hand was a sword. Those who would choose a sword as a weapon were mostly warriors, followed by knights. Weapons were obviously the most representative of the difference in professions. The warrior had already determined that Gu Fei was of the same race, and was about to take the next step when he suddenly saw Gu Fei put the sword back into his pocket, and then pulled it out with his bare hands. Bare hands? Grandmaster of Combat? The warrior was confused again. Even a Grandmaster of Combat would have gloves to increase their attack power, but Gu Fei obviously did not even wear one. "Let's try one move first," the warrior thought, and suddenly went forward, smashing down with a fierce blow. Gu Fei dodged slightly and floated to the warrior's side, waving his right hand. Dual flame flash, flash. A flame rose, and the warrior instantly turned bright red. He was shocked. Fuck, so he really is a mage. Mages were the bane of warriors. This was a fact that was known by everyone. This warrior had actually identified that the three people who blocked his way earlier did not have any mages, and that their levels were very low, which was why he had the guts to fight 1 against 3. Now that he had encountered a profession that he could not identify, and that also countered him, his arrogance was immediately reduced by half. Gu Fei was actually thinking for the warrior's sake by not using a weapon at this time. Just now, this person had fought 1 against 3, and with their rough fighting style, he must have lost a lot of HP. Gu Fei was afraid that if he went down with this weapon, whether it was the night streamer or the fire baptism, this guy would be finished in an instant. There was a reason for this. Gu Fei actually did not want to PK this warrior in front of him. He believed that with his bare hands, this little bit of magic damage should not have much power. The warrior who was hit by the dual flame flash continued to lose HP, but after realizing that the damage was not high, he became spirited, and the giant axe in his hand swung like a windmill. But it was said that mages countered warriors because mages had an advantage in speed over warriors, and could increase the distance between them. At the same time, magic attacks could ignore the high physical defense of warriors, and thus gain the upper hand. Normal mages were like this, not to mention Gu Fei, who was full of agility. Easily pulling away from the opponent, Gu Fei threw small fireballs like a hidden weapon. Although the damage was not high, it was still reducing the warrior's HP bit by bit. If this continued, no matter how long it took, the warrior would not have any chance of winning. Gu Fei saw the despair in the opponent's eyes, and immediately retreated a few steps and said, "Brother, there was actually a bit of a misunderstanding just now." This time, the warrior did not hurriedly curse, and very calmly stood and listened to Gu Fei speak. Those who had strength had the right to speak. This saying was definitely true in the game. Xishan also walked up at this time. "Yeah, it was my fault. I've been in a bad mood these past few days, and can't control my anger, so I randomly curse people. Sorry for the offense." These things are still yours, and the money will be refunded to you. Consider it my apology. Shi Xiaotian tidied up the equipment hanging on his body and packed a new bag. He took out another 10 gold and handed it over to the warrior. The warrior was stunned and reached out his hand to take the money. Give me back the money, I don't want the things. Take it, take it. Shi Xiaotian begged, wanting to shove it into the other's hand. The warrior did not know what to do. Just now he was saying, fuck off, and now he was forcefully grabbing his hand. The change was too big. Forget it. Who wants your junk? Gu Fei said from behind. Fuck you, it's all because of you. Shi Xiaotian turned around and threw the bag of equipment at Gu Fei. Gu Fei was embarrassed, and he spread his hands at the warrior, saying helplessly, you see women, there are always a few days every month. Everyone came to a realization and looked at Shi Xiaotian together. On the side, Gu Fei had a naturally dazed expression. In the distance, someone in the corner was quietly sending a message. That person is a mage. Chapter 102. The axe-wielding warrior took his 10 gold coins and left. The players who had nothing to see naturally dispersed. The 3 young heroes who wanted to play the hero and save the damsel in distress accepted Shi Xiaotian's consolation. Gu Fei wanted to sneak away, but Shi Xiaotian saw through him and shouted, Stop! If there's nothing else, I'm leaving. You guys talk. Gu Fei quickly said. There's something else. Shi Xiaotian said. Is there anything else? Gu Fei smiled. Shi Xiaotian looked at him and didn't say anything. Gu Fei sighed. Fine. I was wrong today. I'm sorry. Deep down, Gu Fei was unwilling to apologize because he still felt that Shi Xiaotian was squatting on the trading street selling junk was a fact that he couldn't accept. Unfortunately, he didn't have any clear evidence. Gu Fei felt this way because his intuition told him that Shi Xiaotian's dedication to deception was no less than his passion for kung fu. Hearing Gu Fei's apology, Shi Xiaotian smiled. You're right. I did have an ulterior motive. Damn it. I knew it. Gu Fei shouted in his heart, but his face didn't change. What do you want to do? Shi Xiaotian glanced to the side. Gu Fei followed her gaze and saw that it was the guy squatting in the corner, setting up a stall and glancing over from time to time. What's wrong? Gu Fei was puzzled. Shi Xiaotian turned around and persuaded the 3 heroes to leave. Then she pulled Gu Fei back to the wall. These people have a lot of good stuff. You've been paying attention to them for a long time? Gu Fei asked. For a while. Shi Xiaotian said, I noticed them at the auction house and the trading street. Usually, they would look for players who had just bought exquisite equipment and then make a move on them. I've seen them surround and attack players with exquisite equipment 3 times. This is too much. Gu Fei said. Shi Xiaotian nodded. I have a feeling that this group of people is not a random group. They should be from the same studio or a family guild. Seeing the confusion on Gu Fei's face, Shi Xiaotian explained further. When players enter the parallel world, they are randomly assigned to the main city, and the teleportation between the world map and the main city has not been opened yet. When these gaming studios and clan guilds enter the game, they naturally can't gather in one place, so there will be some of their forces in each main city. For now, they can only go their own way, and for the time being, they won't use the banners of their gaming studios or clan guilds. Studio? A clan guild? In fact, this was where Gu Fei was at a loss. Don't tell me you don't know what this is? Shi Xiaotian said. Gu Fei smiled awkwardly. I've heard a little about it, but I don't know much about it. Then I'll put it simply. Gaming studios exist for profit. If they drop players' equipment, they will sell it as soon as possible. If it's a clan guild, I'm afraid it's to strengthen their own strength, and they will use the exquisite equipment themselves. Shi Xiaotian said. Then what kind of people are these people? Gu Fei asked. I think it should be a clan guild. Gaming studios aim to make money, and they care more about the game's environment and order than any other player. A big gaming studio with strict discipline would never do this kind of thing. Only some short-sighted small gaming studios would kill the goose that lays the golden eggs, but these small gaming studios are limited in size, and in the situation where the game randomly enters the main city, I'm afraid it will be difficult for them to make a name for themselves in any of the main cities. Shi Xiaotian said. That's right. Gu Fei nodded. I've already asked for information from the players who had their equipment dropped, hoping to identify these guys through their equipment. However, the equipment that was dropped seemed to have evaporated. It didn't appear in the auction house, the trading house, or in the hands of the players in the leveling area. Shi Xiaotian said. Gu Fei suddenly understood. So you ran to the trading street to see if they would appear here? Shi Xiaotian nodded. The probability of them appearing here is really not high. But other than this, I can't think of any other clues. Gu Fei smiled. You forgot something. What? Shi Xiaotian asked. Mailbox. Gu Fei said. Oh. Shi Xiaoyan suddenly realized and hit his head. Since this group of people is a large organization like you're talking about, then of course they have their own forces in every main city. Their method of strengthening themselves is probably also used in every main city. But this group of people is also very cautious. The equipment that they dropped actually didn't use in their main city, they must have used the mailbox to exchange. That's why you definitely won't be able to see the dropped equipment in Cloud City, Gu Fei analyzed. That must be it. Shi Xiaotian patted Gu Fei. Not bad. Gu Fei smiled. In reality, he didn't have such a deep understanding of the details of the game. It was just that when he was in Moonlit Night City, he had just written a letter and heard that Non-Smiler had sent the Wind Whisper to Cloud Morning. These were all things that had happened in the past 2 days, so it was easy for it to become the key to enlightening Gu Fei. If that's the case, then it'll be really hard to find these people. Shi Xiaotian sighed. It was too easy to hide one's identity in the parallel world. If you didn't say your name, no one would know. You could cover your appearance with a piece of cloth. You could also prepare a few sets of equipment to change back and forth. This was what Gu Fei had always done. So, we need someone with exquisite equipment as bait. That way we can lure these people out. Gu Fei said, what a coincidence. I've already been targeted by them. I never thought of it that way. Shi Xiaotian was stunned. Even if we lure them out, it'll be useless. They killed you and dropped your equipment, but you still don't know who they are. As long as they don't die so easily. Gu Fei smiled. Shi Xiaotian rolled his eyes. Did I not explain it clearly enough? This is a group of players who drop exquisite equipment every day. They don't need to prove their strength, do they? Besides, they should have some exquisite equipment now. Then why did you stop me? Gu Fei was stunned. Shi Xiaoyan was also stunned. I just wanted to tell you the real reason why I'm here. That simple? Gu Fei asked. That simple? Shi Xiaotian nodded. Gu Fei was just about to say something when a system notification popped up. It was from Han Family Young Master. He opened it and saw, Sword Demon was killed. Gu Fei was shocked and immediately asked, where? I was leveling up in the leveling area. I just received the message. Han Family Young Master said, Little Ray's bar. I'm waiting for you. Gu Fei ignored Han Family Young Master and immediately sent a message to Sword Demon. You're in the revival area? Don't go out yet. What's wrong? Sword Demon asked. Don't go out while you're in the revival area. Gu Fei said. Sword Demon only replied with one word. But Gu Fei looked at Shi Xiaotian. My friend seems to have been targeted by these guys. What's wrong? He was just killed in the leveling area. Alright, you know him. Frostbite's memories. Do you remember him? Gu Fei said. Of course. Shi Xiaotian said calmly. That's him. I'm going over now. Gu Fei stood up. Wait, don't forget that you're being targeted too. Shi Xiaotian said. That's right. Gu Fei said as he walked straight towards the guy who was stalking him. Hey! Gu Fei shouted as he arrived in front of the guy. The guy raised his head and was surprised to see Gu Fei. But he quickly regained his composure and said with a smile, What do you want? Gu Fei smiled. Robbery. What? The guy was startled. Gu Fei had already taken his hand out of his pocket. With the Dark Knight Stream sword in hand, he stabbed forward. The guy reacted quickly and dodged to the side. But Gu Fei was even faster. He bent down and chased after the guy. Dual flame flash, flash. He shouted. The Dark Knight Stream sword slashed out a fire dragon, sweeping past the guy's body and disappearing along with the guy's disbelieving gaze. Gu Fei didn't have the mood to deal with him and directly used a spell to kill him. Gu Fei crouched down and carefully packed up the guy's stall. He shook it and picked it up. When he got up, the surroundings were silent. All of the players looked at Gu Fei in fear. Many of them had already hurriedly packed up their stalls. Even more people had already pulled out their weapons. They looked at each other and prepared to face a common enemy. Gu Fei smiled. It's a personal grudge. Don't worry about me. Continue with what you're doing. He turned and walked out under everyone's gazes. When he passed by Shi Xiaoyan's stall, he flicked his finger. This thing looks pretty good. I'll give it to you. Shi Xiaotian took it. It was a crystal emblem. Its stats were trash, but it did have a beautiful design. Shi Xiaotian curled his lips. I hate you robbers the most. There's no technique involved at all. Gu Fei laughed and quickly left the trading street. The street was just as quiet as before. When Gu Fei disappeared, everyone's gaze fell on Shi Xiaotian. Chapter 103. After leaving the trading street, Gu Fei went straight to Little Ray's bar. This kind of emergency gathering was the best demonstration of everyone's speed. When Gu Fei arrived at the tavern, he saw that the Han family young master and Yu Tianxinming had already arrived. One of them was drinking here, and the other was writing a wizard's secret book in another tavern not far away. So, after waiting for a while, Brother Yu arrived, and after waiting for a long time, unscathed in battle finally ran in. Why isn't Sword Demon here yet? The Han family young master looked at the time and frowned. Oh, I told him not to leave the resurrection point, Gu Fei said. Why? Everyone looked at Gu Fei. This is a premeditated group. Gu Fei said, they're targeting guys with excellent equipment, and then find an opportunity to kill them until the equipment drops. Sword Demon must have been targeted by them. Brother Yu was stunned. After a while, he said gloomily, Qianli, don't be like this. You're stealing my rice bowl. If you reveal the information, do I still have any value in this group? Gu Fei hurriedly stepped back. Go on, go on. Brother Yu nodded, cleared his throat, and looked around at everyone. The basic situation is like what Qianli said. Everyone, see what else you want to add. Everyone rolled their eyes. Brother Yu was also embarrassed. If it was so easy to find out about these people, they would have been hunted down long ago. They've succeeded many times. The guys who were killed don't know their identities? Brother Yu nodded. They mainly ambushed mages, archers, and thieves. The victims died before they could find them. Everyone was deep in thought. The Han family young master said to Gu Fei, so you suspect that they've already set up outside the resurrection point and will continue to ambush Sword Demon? Of course, Gu Fei said confidently. Han family young master patted him on the shoulder. Rogue knows how to lurk, thank you. Gu Fei was so ashamed that he could not show his face. Han family young master sent another message to Sword Demon. After waiting for a while, the Sword Demon appeared. My condolences. My condolences. Everyone expressed their condolences. Sword Demon didn't seem too sad. It's just dropping a level. It's no big deal. No one spoke. In fact, Sword Demon's death wasn't as simple as losing a level. He was almost level 31. This death was technically a loss of a level, but in reality, it could be said to be a loss of 2 levels. It's good that Frostbite hasn't lost his memory, Gu Fei comforted him. I dropped it? Sword Demon said lightly. Everyone was shocked. The drop rate of equipment in the parallel world wasn't this high. Dropping the best weapon on him in one go, Sword Demon could be said to be extremely unlucky. Not good, they'll send Frostbite's memory to other main cities. Then we won't be able to find it anymore. Gu Fei stood up and said, How do you know? The others were stunned. There's no time to talk about it in detail. Go to the mailbox and intercept them. Gu Fei said, They killed me for Frostbite's memory? Sword Demon still hadn't figured out the cause of death. There is indeed such a group of people now. They specifically target players with excellent equipment, and then... Brother, you said... Scum. Sword Demon clenched his teeth. Being killed didn't cause Sword Demon to be overly angry. Even dropping excellent equipment could be restrained. But after knowing the reason for being killed, Sword Demon was really angry. Let's stop talking. Let's move. Gu Fei urged everyone. Sword Demon died in the leveling area and returned in the blink of an eye. However, they had spent a lot of time gathering at Little Ray's bar. If the other party had returned with Frostbite's memories and mailed it, they would have arrived by now. He wasn't even sure if he could make it in time, so he couldn't delay any longer. From the Sword Demon's leveling area, the closest way is through the East Gate. However, in order to avoid the revenge of the victims, it was very likely that they would go through another door. However, we don't have enough manpower. If we split up into 4 gates, we might not be a match for them. He could only take a gamble now. Brother Yu Yuyen Wushang, go to the East Gate. Sword Demon, Qianli, and I will go to the South Gate. We'll talk about the rest in the guild channel. Han family young master stood up and made arrangements. Wait, I think Qianli can do it alone. Yutian Shenming said. Everyone was startled, but after thinking about it, they agreed. Han family young master nodded. Qianli, you go to the North Gate. Can you and Sword Demon do it alone? Brother Yu was worried. Han family young master didn't have much fighting power as a priest. Sword Demon was strong enough, but the problem was that he had just lost a level. More importantly, Frostbite's memories had also been destroyed, so his strength had dropped greatly. Han family young master didn't care. The 3 of you are the most worrisome. Can you do it without a priest? Damn. Worry about yourself. Sword Demon, if you can't get Frostbite's memories back, it will definitely be his fault. Yutian Shenming was dissatisfied. Sword Demon smiled. Let's go. The 3 groups left Little Ray's bar and went their separate ways. At this moment, the difference in speed was once again shown. Of the 3, Yutian Shenming had already run a long way. Brother Yu and Unscathed in battle were left behind, one in front and one behind. Sword Ghost and the other 2, as well as the Han family's young master, were slowly left behind. However, the South Gate and East Gate were relatively close to Little Ray's bar. When they reached the city gate, the distance wouldn't be too far. At this moment, time was tight, so they couldn't be too careful. Online gaming experts like them had already mastered the skill of chatting while traveling in the parallel world. At this moment, they were communicating in the guild channel. Actually, it might not be the people who dropped the equipment. It might be someone seeking revenge. Let's not talk about the old grudges in the game. In the parallel world, Sword Demon, your identity was the most exposed when you killed unsmilingly. Frostbite's memories is too eye-catching. Han family young master said. I know. Sword Demon said. Also, this time, you were also at the forefront of the command in Moonlit Night City, right? I'm afraid you've met those people from the previous life? Han Clan's young master said. The people from the previous world probably won't come to take revenge so quickly. They're still very busy over there. Brother Yu interrupted. I know, I'm just saying. Han family young master said. What are those people like? Sword Demon, you still haven't said. Brother Yu said. When they attacked, the classes that appeared were mages, thieves, and archers. I was instantly killed and didn't have time to see who it was. However, the moment I died, I used Identify on the thief that ambushed me. He wore the Storm Cloak, which increased agility by 12 and attack speed by 5%, Shadow Boots, which increased movement speed by 14%, Windproof Hat, Dual Belt, Wolf Ring, which increased agility and strength by 4, Candle Emblem, which increased HP by 2%, Force Ring, which increased strength by 2%, Speed Necklace, which increased agility by 2%. His weapon is Double-Edged Fang, and has a split effect. Sword Demon reported. In the parallel world, as long as the name was the same, then the basic attack and defense attributes would be completely the same. The difference was in the additional attributes. Identifying the target through the equipment, the additional attributes were also the main basis. After hearing Sword Demon's report, Han family young master concluded, pay attention to teams with mages, thieves, and archers. Pay attention to thieves with the aforementioned equipment. Everyone responded. Gu Fei stopped and said blankly, I don't know identify, what should I do? Due to the time constraint, everyone neglected this problem. Gu Fei was traveling alone. He had no problem with his strength, but he could not identify his opponents because he did not know identify. In order to take on this mission, it was not enough to just know identify, one had to have a high appraisal level. In the game, it was very troublesome to use identify to identify players. Firstly, the player's level could not be lower than the other parties. Then, it would be a competition of identify. There was no 100% success rate or failure rate. It was just like the probability of hitting the target. Moreover, it did not mean that one could look through the target's entire body if the appraisal was successful. Sometimes, one would only see 4 or 5 of the 9 pieces of equipment, and the rest would still be question marks. In any case, since Gu Fei did not even know identify, his trip was in vain. In the elite team, Brother Yu had the highest appraisal level, followed by Sword Demon. The Han family's young master and the other two were thinking that as experts, they couldn't have such a glaring weakness. Hence, they symbolically trained as well. However, putting aside whether they could make it in time to help Gu Fei, Sword Demon and Han family young master could not afford to lose any more people. Yutian Shenming and the other two were in danger too. After all, they did not have a priest to heal them, and it would be difficult for them to fight against such professional teams. Ignore him. Qianli can just pick up a random girl by the roadside and help him appraise. Yutian Shenming added insult to injury. The others treated it as a joke and continued to worry. Unexpectedly, Gu Fei was reminded by that. He immediately replied, okay, I'll find someone to help. Everyone was shocked. Could he really hook up a girl to be his assistant on the street? Of course, that was not Gu Fei's plan. However, Yutian Shenming's mention of a girl reminded Gu Fei that he did not need anyone to help him fight. He only needed to use identify. There might be girls who were reborn as amethyst who could do such a task. Following which he opened the guild channel. Suddenly, rows of text flew up in the air. Girls loved to gossip, and they gossiped in the guild channel every day, even more diligent than leveling up. Gu Fei had never used the guild channel before, and only now did he realize how powerful the girls were. By the time the messages flashed, Gu Fei had almost reached the North Gate, and this was only the messages that Gu Fei had accumulated after he went online today. If it was all of them, Gu Fei shuddered. Not knowing what to say, Gu Fei thought for a moment and asked, is anyone here? Fuck, are you an idiot? You can't see so many big sisters, so why are you asking if anyone is here? Someone yelled. Gu Fei looked at it fiercely. Is there anyone with a high standard in appraisal art who can help me? Gu Fei asked. The girls did not mention their appraisal skills, but asked what was going on. This was the spirit of gossip. It's urgent. Let's talk about it later. Gu Fei said. My appraisal skill is at level 8, a girl said weakly. Gu Fei did not know what level 8 meant, so he glanced at the girl's name, Ice Glaze. Can we reach the North Gate soon? Gu Fei asked. Oh, it's very close. We'll be there soon, Ice Glaze answered. Gu Fei added her as a friend. Thanks. You're welcome, Ice Glaze answered. Chapter 104. Gu Fei reckoned that he had met all the girls who were reborn as amethyst. However, other than a few, the rest did not match up. As for the one called Ice Glaze, Gu Fei did not know who it was. They arrived at the North Gate. There was no one around the mailbox. Gu Fei occupied the spot and looked around. He did not see the face of Amethyst. At this moment, Lu Xia sent him a private message, asking if he needed any help. It's nothing. I just don't know appraisal, so I need help, Gu Fei said calmly. Oh, my appraisal skill is quite strong, but I dropped a level, Lu Xia said regretfully. In theory, the penalty for death was only dropping a level and possibly losing equipment. However, since skills were related to levels, dropping a level would result in a chain of penalties for the skills. For example, to reach level 10 in appraisal, the player had to be at least level 30. If the player dropped a level, the level 10 appraisal skill would not be retained. It would be reduced to the highest level possible at level 29. However, the level of appraisal aside, Gu Fei needed to appraise a character. There was a 100% requirement. The player's level must be higher than or equal to the target. If it was not for this, Gu Fei would have asked Lu Xia, who already knew his background, for help instead of calling for help in the guild. When Gu Fei first joined Amethyst, the levels of the girls in the guild were quite low. 6 months Rain was the only one who was level 30. However, it had been a few days since then. Perhaps it was because of the incident with the non-smiler that the girls were excited about leveling up. Gu Fei looked at the guild member list again. There were already a few level 30 players, and Ice Glaze was one of them. I'm next to the mailbox. Gu Fei sent a message to Ice Glaze. I see you, Ice Glaze replied. Gu Fei immediately looked around, and sure enough, he saw a kind-looking girl walking towards him from a street not far away. Hi. Ice Glaze walked up to Gu Fei and greeted him. The two of them officially got to know each other. What do you need me to identify? Ice Glaze took the initiative to ask. It's like this. Gu Fei stared at the city gate while briefly explaining the cause of the matter to Ice Glaze. You just need to find this person and leave the rest to me. Gu Fei smiled and sent a copy of the information provided by Sword Demon to Ice Glaze. Oh, if that's the case, I hope I can help. Ice Glaze said. At level 30, the highest appraisal skill could reach was level 10. Ice Glaze was only level 8 at the moment, so she was not confident. Sorry to bother you, said Gu Fei. You're too polite. We're all on the same side after all. Ice Glaze smiled. Since she was willing to come over to help, Gu Fei believed that her words came from the bottom of her heart and wasn't fake courtesy. He couldn't help but feel a bit of warmth in his heart. You're also a mage. Gu Fei looked at Ice Glaze's information and said, Yeah, the same as you. Ice Glaze nodded her head in reply. Let's take a look at the weapon you're using, okay? Gu Fei said. Oh. Ice Glaze didn't even think as she handed the magic staff in her hands over to Gu Fei. The trust in this was something that a newbie like Gu Fei couldn't understand. The value of equipment in the game was even higher than one's life. Borrowing equipment here wasn't much different from asking someone in real life to borrow your life. A tactful person wouldn't make this kind of request, no matter how close their friend was. Gu Fei's heart was open. Even though he understood this logic, he didn't think too much about it when he asked. He just wanted to take a look at the stats of a level 30 mage's magic staff and directly feel how strong the night-flowing light sword was. As a result, he unconsciously asked to borrow it and easily borrowed it. After looking at it, he handed it back. Ice Glaze's magic staff was a very normal white staff. The stats were extremely average. Gu Fei didn't think too much about it and pulled out the magic staff that July had given him before. He handed it over to her. Yours doesn't seem to be as good as this one? Ice Glaze took it and looked at it. She nodded her head and said, It's much better than mine. Then take it and use it. Gu Fei said. Liking the new and hating the old happened every day in the game. Ice Glaze wasn't too surprised and didn't hold back. She nodded her head and said, Then let me borrow it for a while. It seemed like she really didn't treat Gu Fei as an outsider. Gu Fei continued to look outside the city gates. Ice Glaze looked around with him and appraised the passing players. She didn't find any suspicious people. Not long after, a group of 6 people walked into the city from the main road outside. From the equipment, there was a thief, 2 mages, 2 archers, and a cleric. It matched up with the class composition that Sword Demon had mentioned. Gu Fei's eyes lit up and he immediately pointed it out to Ice Glaze. Ice Glaze had long since noticed this group of people. She nodded her head and waited for the 6 people to enter the range of her identify. The 6 people walked through the city gates and their gazes quickly fell in the direction of the mailbox. Gu Fei felt that the answer was already obvious. As expected, Ice Glaze quickly used Identify to check the results. After comparing them, she nodded at Gu Fei. The 6 people had already arrived in front of them. Gu Fei had just sent a message in the mercenary channel. The target has appeared. Brother, are you sending something? Excuse me. The thief politely said to Gu Fei. To send something, one had to handle the mailbox step by step. Gu Fei was in front of the mailbox. When he heard the other party's words, he politely moved to the side. The other party gave a friendly smile to Gu Fei. Gu Fei also seemed to feel close to them. He asked next to the mailbox, "Brother, what's your name?" "Remnant Dream is dead." The man smiled at Gu Fei as he opened his mailbox. "Good name." Gu Fei smiled. He suddenly raised his leg and kicked Remnant Dream's shoulder. The first thing that came to Gu Fei's mind was depression. He was too weak. This was a problem that Gu Fei had been depressed about countless times since he entered the game. But every time it happened, he would stop his train of thought and sigh. With such a powerful sidekick, Remnant Dream only staggered a few steps to the side. If this happened in the real world, with his size, a single kick from him would have sent him flying for at least 5 meters. Gu Fei thought gloomily. However, this kick that Gu Fei was very dissatisfied with left Remnant Dream and his companions in a daze. The hostility of this kick was obvious, but the damage it caused was very friendly. Nowadays, some players who didn't have any attack power would play such a crude joke with their friends from time to time. Since it was only a game, falling down wouldn't hurt the body. But the problem was that Remnant Dream and Gu Fei didn't know each other at all. It seemed that he couldn't take such a big joke. Remnant Dream looked at Gu Fei blankly. In the moment of hesitation, Gu Fei had already finished reviewing and flew over to give him another kick. This time, Remnant Dream saw it clearly. He wanted to dodge, but he didn't know why he couldn't avoid it. Gu Fei's kick landed on his head. The damage was still negligible, but it was a little scary to have a clear kick on his face. Remnant Dream lifted the big footprint on his face and was a little panicked. His 5 companions finally reacted. The cleric rushed to heal Remnant Dream first. Fireball shoot. An archer needed to draw the bow and knock the arrow in order to shoot. On the other hand, a mage was straightforward and just needed to talk. 2 fireballs rushed towards Gu Fei. Gu Fei dashed forward. While consuming the time of the fireball's tracking effect, he took the opportunity to pull away from the archer. The archer's arrow was much faster than the fireball. To dodge it, Gu Fei also needed some time. The bowstring sounded, and the archer's arrow was also released. Gu Fei saw it clearly. He nimbly turned his body and easily dodged the 2 fireballs and the 2 arrows. Everyone was dumbfounded. How precise was his calculation and skill? From their point of view, it seemed that Gu Fei had already calculated that the fireball and the arrow would arrive at the same time. But in fact, the 4 attacks coming from the same direction, whether they arrived first or at the same time, had the same target. As long as Gu Fei moved away from the original position, it was naturally easy to avoid all of them. He was just waiting for the fireball's tracking effect to disappear. As for the arrow and the fireball arriving at the same time, in all honesty, it wasn't Gu Fei's control. They should be amazed at their unintentional ingenuity. After dodging this attack, Gu Fei began to counterattack. There was only one reason why he didn't take the initiative to attack before. Gu Fei had enough of his PK points. So he hoped that the opponent would attack first, so that he could take advantage of the rule of not increasing his PK points by counterattacking. When he rushed in front of these people, the archer was just loading the second arrow, and the mage was just about to open his mouth to cast the spell Fireball for the second time. Gu Fei reached for his sword and swung it in a circle. The archer's arrow went askew, and the mage had just shouted the word Fireball, but it was extinguished before it could burn. After a mage's fireball was summoned, it wouldn't just float there waiting for you to shout shoot. From fireball to shoot, this was a complete spell release process. If you were attacked during this process, the spell release would immediately be interrupted. At this moment, the people who were already in a mess suddenly changed color. As a mage, Gu Fei and the other 2 heard the sound above their heads, and their expressions changed. When they looked up, there was indeed a heavenly fire wheel forming. Gu Fei was startled and quickly looked back. Ice Glaze was there, raising her staff. "Don't surrender!" Gu Fei shouted, and a flame flashed in the sky. The fire wheel formed, and then it fell to the ground. "Ah!" Ice Glaze screamed with a pale face. Gu Fei didn't expect her to suddenly help, but she didn't expect that as a mage, Gu Fei would actually get close to the enemy after distancing himself. She was going to give this fire wheel to those people, but Gu Fei also came up. Heavenly Fire Wheel, descend. At that time, she was afraid that it would be too slow, so she said these 5 words in one go. How could she keep the last command to attack? At this moment, she could only watch as Gu Fei and the others took on the burning fire wheel together. Chapter 105. The flaming wheel descended from the sky. Its speed was even faster than an archer's snipe. Moreover, the distance wasn't very far. If one wanted to dodge this, they would have to move while the mage was chanting. Gu Fei and the others waited until the flaming wheel appeared before shouting and trying to dodge. No matter how fast they were, they wouldn't be able to dodge in time. As for Gu Fei, he hoped that the flaming wheel wouldn't fall. This was a thought that would only appear when one was completely unfamiliar with the game's habits. The flaming wheel descended, covering the group of people. This was the second time that Gu Fei suffered a strong blow after Xiao Yu's whirlwind slash. His body was engulfed in flames, and his health quickly dropped. Gu Fei was very depressed. Why was it that the people who attacked him were all his friends? However, Ice Glaze wasn't Gu Fei. The Heavenly Flaming Wheel was an AoE spell. With a large area of effect, the corresponding single target damage would be lower. Unless there was a large difference in levels, this move was completely different from an instant kill. Gu Fei's own Heavenly Flaming Wheel had caused the others to cry out in pain, leaving a shadow in his heart. At this time, when Ice Glaze's Flaming Wheel appeared, it made him nervous. In his heart, he was still praying for a priest to appear and save him like last time. Who knew that its power would be so limited, and his health would stop dropping after a bit. In this type of battle that involved magic, the other 5 were clearly more experienced than Gu Fei. Even though they were hit by the Heavenly Flaming Wheel, they didn't panic. Taking advantage of the fact that Gu Fei's health was dropping, they continued to attack. 5 against 1, they didn't feel that there was anything to be afraid of. Gu Fei seemed to have awoken from a dream. Seeing that the other side was about to cast another spell, he immediately swung his sword. Dual Flame Flash. The 2 mages also wanted to use this move. Even though this move's damage was very low, but Gu Fei had just been hit by a Heavenly Flaming Wheel, and now he was hit by 2 mages' Dual Flame Flash. Even if he didn't die on the spot, the 5 seconds of Dual Flame Flash would be enough to burn away Gu Fei's health. Unfortunately, Gu Fei reacted even faster. With a wave of the Night Streak Sword, the 2 mages' Dual Flame Flash had only managed to shout 2 words before they were destroyed. The 2 mages were sacrificed as well. After being hit by the Heavenly Fire Wheel and slashed twice by the Dark Knight Lightsaber, it would be strange if a mage with a lower HP didn't die. As for the priest among them, he was desperately healing himself and didn't realize that his companion's life was in danger. Archers who were in close combat performed worse than mages. They thought that the 2 mages would quickly kill off Gu Fei, but who knew that they would be the ones to fall in the end? Only then did the 2 archers become nervous. They hurriedly took large steps back, wanting to put some distance between them. How could Gu Fei give them this chance? Swoosh, 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 he thrust his sword out twice. Gu Fei was a full agility mage. No matter how fast an archer was, it would not be easy for him to show his advantage within a few meters. Although Gu Fei couldn't run as fast as them, it was enough for him to extend his arm and pass the sword. Both of them were stabbed in the back. A white light flashed and they disappeared. Similarly, the Heavenly Fire Wheel and 2 swords were not something the archers could withstand. Glancing back, the priest's staff was already wooden. This guy had just recovered and was ready to help his companions. Who knew that in such a short period of time, his 4 companions had already been defeated by Gu Fei. The minister was at a loss, alone, and helpless. However, Gu Fei did not feel the slightest bit of sympathy. He quickly stepped forward. Compared to Gu Fei's speed, the cleric's difference was too great. The difference was so great that the cleric's advantage could be seen in just a few meters. Gu Fei had caught up to the cleric who was trying to escape, but he only managed to turn his body halfway. Dual Flame Flash, flash. Gu Fei shouted in a carefree manner. Just now, the 2 mages could only sing half of the song. They must have been very depressed, right? However, this cleric was clearly a vitality type. After taking Gu Fei's dual flame flash, he actually didn't die. After all, this was currently the skill that mages had the lowest direct damage. As for the 5 seconds of burning damage, that had nothing to do with the weapon in his hand. It was easy for the cleric to endure because he could heal. Gu Fei didn't hesitate and used another dual flame flash. The dark flowing light sword displayed its magic damage, and the priest finally fell. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. The flames from Ice Glaze's heavenly fire wheel slowly receded. Of the 6 people that had been trapped by the fire wheel, only Gu Fei was left. Amazing! Gu Fei gave Ice Glaze a thumbs up. They were all insta-killed by you. Unfortunately, Ice Glaze wasn't Little Rain. She understood very well and said with a smile, "My PK value didn't increase." These words reminded Gu Fei. He immediately looked at his character's information and saw that his PK value was a bright red 6. Fuck. Gu Fei lost control of his emotions. It was clearly the other side who attacked him first. According to his calculations, at most, the cleric didn't attack him, and then it would add 1 PK value to his account. 1 PK value? 6? Gu Fei came to his senses. He had killed that guy in the market, so his PK value was already 1. Rules like self-defense or killing players with PK value didn't work on him anymore. Because he was already a person with PK value. Gu Fei's face was full of tears. As the saying goes, even a wise man would make a mistake. Gu Fei often fell because he ignored the rules of the game. It seemed like he needed to strengthen his PK knowledge and ingrain the rules of PK into his mind. He needed to have a strong awareness of the consequences of his actions. PK value. Since he entered the game, he was the closest to this thing. He had only abandoned it for 3 hours and it had come back again. Ice Glaze naturally didn't know that Gu Fei had so many emotional changes. She said regretfully, "That guy escaped with stealth." Ice Glaze was talking about Remnant Dream's death. The equipment data that Gu Fei had provided clearly belonged to this person. Now that he had let him escape, could this be considered a miscalculation on Gu Fei's part? Gu Fei smiled calmly. "Isn't he still here?" After saying this, Gu Fei flew up, turned in the air, and performed a beautiful roundhouse kick. A figure appeared behind Gu Fei. Remnant Dream's head was tilted to the side, and there was a large footprint on the right side of his face. "So handsome!" Ice Glaze applauded. Gu Fei laughed, but he didn't think much of it. The layman just watched for fun, while the experts saw the technique. A roundhouse kick was indeed elegant and beautiful, but in a real battle, the value of this kick was limited. To put it simply, the first thing to do was to have the space to use it. During the process of using it, the support of the lower body, as well as the time needed to recover, were all major flaws. In short, this kind of large movement was rarely used in a real battle between experts. The reason why Gu Fei used it now was because his opponent was a layman. Secondly, Remnant Dream's position was too cool, so Gu Fei couldn't help but use this move that he rarely used normally. Thirdly, Gu Fei's kick had been modified by him. Compared to a normal roundhouse kick, Gu Fei's kick was only half a move. In gaming terms, it shortened the casting time of the skill. Naturally, there were fewer openings. Ice Glaze couldn't see this, so she could only praise it. When Gu Fei heard this, he felt that this praise had no substance or meaning. Remnant Dream had been kicked 3 times by Gu Fei and 2 times in the head. Of course, the damage was limited, but it was obvious that he was stunned by Gu Fei's kicks. 5 seconds had passed, and he still maintained his side-tilted face, like a frozen scene in a movie. Gu Fei was happy that he was stunned here. He hadn't killed Remnant Dream yet, and Gu Fei was deliberately stalling for time. From the beginning, he stood in front of the mailbox to block the way. Gu Fei wanted to confirm who had Frostbite's memory, and then determined that it should be Remnant Dream. Thus, Gu Fei took care of the other guys first, leaving Remnant Dream to buy time for the Han family young master and the others. Frostbite's memory dropped after 1 kill. This kind of terrible luck, Sword Demon had already met him once today. He believed that most people wouldn't be so unlucky. So, To get Frostbite's memory, it was necessary to chase. Players who had exquisite weapons would, of course, always carry their equipment with them. This situation was different from Remnant Dream's memory. Frostbite's memory could be transferred at any time, which magnified the difficulty of recovering Frostbite's memory. In fact, Gu Fei didn't have much hope of recovering Frostbite's memory. His main thought was to help Sword Demon vent his anger. Besides, it was really too touching to have a fight. But no matter what, Frostbite's memory was still an important goal. After killing Remnant Dream, the next stop was naturally his resurrection point, the Thieves' Guild. At this time, Gu Fei was waiting for the Han family young master and the others to go there in advance to make the arrangements. Remnant Dream was stunned for 5 seconds before coming back to his senses. He held the dagger in his hand and looked at Gu Fei, but he didn't know how to attack. Escaping was the best plan. When Remnant Dream made this decision, Gu Fei's sword was already swinging. If Remnant Dream wanted to run, Gu Fei really couldn't do anything about it. After the thief activated the level 30 skill Swift Step, Gu Fei wouldn't be able to catch up no matter what. Seeing that Remnant Dream had returned to normal, Gu Fei immediately made his move. He had to tangle with the opponent here until the Han family young master and the others were ready. The dark moonlight sword danced, and the sword light intertwined, forming a sword net. Remnant Dream was completely at a loss as to what to do. Fortunately, he managed to dodge and block Gu Fei's attacks a few times, which comforted him a little. Of course, he couldn't tell that this was all done on purpose by Gu Fei. In such a stalemate, in order to trick the opponent, Gu Fei even pretended to be anxious. This did give Remnant Dream some confidence. Although the opponent was attacking, he was still able to defend. It seemed that his reaction and speed were quite good. Remnant Dream was secretly pleased. If he continued like this, it wouldn't be long before reinforcements arrived. Remnant Dream actually had the same hope as Gu Fei. In the end, both of their hopes weren't fulfilled. Gu Fei suddenly heard a loud female voice behind him, "Yo, they're fighting." Then, he heard Ice Glaze exclaim, fiercely, "Ha, I came over to see what was going on. So it's a fight. Let me help you," fiercely roared. Remnant Dream's heart turned cold, and so did Gu Fei. Chapter 106. Fiercely's appearance was just too timely. This type of gossip was something Gu Fei didn't expect. If he knew that asking for help in Reborn Amethyst would lead to this outcome, Gu Fei would have been more cautious. Right now, only Fiercely came, but he couldn't guarantee that there wouldn't be a second or third person. Thinking about the chat history in Reborn Purple Life's Guild channel, Gu Fei's heart became even colder. He turned around and saw Fiercely's hungry expression. This expression was probably exclusive to Moonlit City players. He didn't think that there would be such a PvP enthusiast in Cloud City. He definitely couldn't let her get involved. Gu Fei only had this thought when he saw Fiercely rush over. He immediately said arrogantly, "Don't come up, I want to fight him one-on-one." "Is that so?" Lai Lai stopped in his tracks upon hearing this. It seemed like she was a PvP enthusiast. When she heard that the opponent wanted to fight one-on-one, she immediately changed from a participant to a spectator, calmly standing next to Ice Glaze. "How long has it been?" Fiercely asked Ice Glaze. 5 minutes. Ice Glaze said. Gu Fei had been playing with Remnant Dream for 5 minutes. "You still haven't settled it in 5 minutes? Fiercely was dumbfounded. PvP in the game wasn't like the duels between experts in wuxia novels. It was impossible to fight for 300 to 500 moves without a winner being decided. Basically, the winner would be decided in a few moves. To be able to fight for 5 minutes was definitely rare. However, when he saw that Gu Fei, a mage, was fighting with someone with a sword, he felt puzzled and relieved at the same time. Using one's weakness to attack the opponent's strength, not being able to take him down in 5 minutes was normal. Not being killed by the opponent was already pretty good. Moreover, it looked like Gu Fei had the upper hand. "Why is he fighting in close combat?" Fiercely asked Ice Glaze. She, who was late, thought that there were some twists and turns. Maybe the exquisite sword he has is powerful in some way? Ice Glaze had always thought so. No matter where it was, the Dark Knight flowing light sword would always stand out and stand out. Was he a close combat mage? Fiercely flashed this thought in his mind, but he quickly shook his head and threw it out. A melee mage, the PvP King 27149, couldn't even take care of a little thief in 5 minutes? What was he thinking? He actually fantasized about his idol when he saw a random melee mage. This was clearly blasphemy. Ever since melee mages became famous on the forums, many mages in the game had begun to imitate them. Just based on close combat alone, it could no longer prove anything. Fiercely rejected his own conjecture and continued to watch the battle. It couldn't be denied that Gu Fei's technique was too brilliant. With the addition of an appropriate expression, not only did he fool Remnant Dreams, he also fooled the 2 girls who were supposed to be watching from the sidelines. Fiercely had always considered herself to have some foundation in Kung Fu. A real Kung Fu master was performing in front of her, yet she couldn't tell at all. She even blindly complained, "Hey, why did it go wrong again? It's blocked. Can't you move a bit faster?" After another 2 minutes, Fiercely began to jeer, "Can you do it or not? If you can't, then come down. Let big sister go." Lie, stop arguing, Glazed Ice, who was at the side, advised. "He can't," Fiercely said. Ice Glaze didn't say anything. She had been watching from the sidelines for a long time. Even though she couldn't tell from Gu Fei's movements, the 2 mages, 2 archers, and a cleric had all been taken care of by Gu Fei. Even with her heavenly fire wheel as a foundation, taking care of 5 characters in an instant wasn't easy. Moreover, the 3 kicks that Gu Fei gave to Remnant Dreams were still fresh in her mind. How could a person who could kick his opponent 3 times suddenly not be able to stab his opponent with a single stab? Ice Glaze deserved to be called a girl who was as meticulous as silk. She noticed every detail that could be noticed. Of the 2 girls, one was trying to guess what Gu Fei was thinking, while the other was loudly shouting to disturb Gu Fei's thoughts. Fortunately, they didn't ruin Gu Fei's plan. However, weren't the Han family young master and the others a bit too slow? Gu Fei felt a bit impatient. Then, a figure flashed across the street. The enemy's 2 archers had actually returned a step ahead of them. Cloud City's archer range was closer to the north gate and the archers were faster. "Don't worry about me. You guys go take care of those 2 girls. They're together," Remnant Dream yelled. Gu Fei said that he wanted to duel him, but he didn't let the 2 girls interfere. Remnant Dream was overjoyed. The 2 archers had been in a daze ever since they arrived. In their eyes, Gu Fei was a ruthless character. They didn't think that Remnant Dream would still be alive after such a long time. Remnant Dream didn't reply to their messages, so the 2 decided to move over first. Who knew that they wouldn't receive a reply from the Thief Guild? In the blink of an eye, they arrived at their destination. Remnant Dream was still fighting back. The 2 immediately felt great admiration for Remnant Dream and said in unison, "Not bad." "It's nothing." Remnant Dream was proud of himself. Gu Fei's 7-minute performance helped him increase his confidence by 7 times. Gu Fei saw that the other side had help and Remnant Dream was still so arrogant, so he was unhappy. He didn't swing his sword. Instead, he leaped into the air and did a standard roundhouse kick that landed on Remnant Dream's face. Remnant Dream's forehead and right cheek already had a footprint. Gu Fei had to leave the footprint on the left side of his face. After the kick, the footprint on the left side of his face was half a centimeter lower than the right side. Gu Fei sighed. It seemed that his left and right legs weren't completely synchronized. There was still half a centimeter difference. Seeing that Remnant Dream was kicked, the 2 archers were also stunned. They turned their bows and aimed at Gu Fei. "Can you do it?" The 2 asked Remnant Dream again. Remnant Dream shook his head. Was everything just a dream? Why couldn't the opponent's martial arts hit him? Instead, he couldn't dodge such a difficult move. What was going on? Remnant Dream was at a loss. Was it because this move didn't do any damage, so the system decided that he didn't need to dodge? Remnant Dream thought from the perspective of an online game and gradually deviated from the right path. Gu Fei was worried about not being able to deal with the 2 archers. On the other side, Fiercely had already rushed up excitedly. "Leave these 2 to me," she shouted. The two archers didn't care about Remnant Dream's death anymore. They turned their knocked arrows and shot it fiercely. Fortunately, the two had just lost a level and didn't know the strongest skill of the archer, snipe. The two of them prepared to use the archer's level 24 skill, double hit. This skill wasn't weak, but it had a flaw, which was that it took a long time to activate. However, this wasn't a force designed by the system. It was a human effect. Of course, it was more troublesome to knock two arrows on the string than to knock one. Without long-term training, it was hard to knock an arrow so quickly. If the arrow wasn't knocked properly, then it would be very problematic for the arrow to hit its target. This was what the legendary archers needed to do. Moreover, under normal circumstances, archers hid in the dark and could calmly knock an arrow and release it. Therefore, there were very few people who would spend time in this area to strengthen their training. As a result, when faced with this kind of emergency situation, most archers wouldn't be as nimble as before. These two were obviously one of them. Their trembling arrows couldn't be knocked properly. The one on the left was quick-witted. Seeing that he was about to be closed in, he knew that saving his life was more important. He decisively gave up one arrow and used the newbie skill, strong arrow, with the other arrow. The one on the right was inspired. He didn't use double hit anymore and hurriedly used strong arrow with his other hand. One after the other, the two of them launched a double combo, in the form of a two-people rotation. Fiercely's reaction was fast, and she quickly shook her body. She dodged the first arrow, but the second arrow accurately hit its target. However, a mere strong arrow wouldn't be able to kill anyone. Fiercely had already rushed to the front of the two. The closer he got, the more the archer's knocked arrow trembled. Fiercely shouted, and the arrow in one of their hands fell to the ground. This person turned and ran, not feeling embarrassed at all. From a tactical point of view, this was to rely on speed to open up a distance with the enemy. Running and shooting at the same time was called kiting. It was a skill that archers had to master. However, Fiercely had a lot of combat experience. Once he saw that the person was about to run, he immediately activated the Grandmaster of Combat's level 24 skill, Galloping Meteor. His speed suddenly increased, and he stabbed his fist into the person's waist. Luckily, he triggered the stun effect. Then he calmly used heavy punches, uppercuts, and bouncing kicks. The opponent flew into the air. Fiercely's hands were really fast. With a stretch and a hug, he dragged the opponent's legs and threw him back to the ground. With a flash of white light, he died. His moves were faster than the coward's savior. Gu Fei continued to wear down Remnant Dream's death. He was also paying attention to the situation on the other side. Seeing Fiercely's moves, he quickly made an evaluation. That last throw had some damage. It seemed like it was a hug throw. With the speed of the coward's savior, it was impossible to follow up with a hug throw after the bouncing kick. It seemed like these two Grandmasters of Combat had different ways of adding points. The other archer didn't stay idle. He took the opportunity to accurately fire 2 consecutive shots. However, the other girl, Ice Glaze, was no longer a bystander. At this time, she had already entered the attack range of spells. The level 30 skill, Rapid Fireball, had already been cast, and she rushed towards the archer with great momentum. This girl was really quiet when using spells. This time, he didn't hear her chant. After Gu Fei evaluated Fiercely, he evaluated Ice Glaze. The speed of a sorcerer's spells was much slower than an archer's arrows. It wasn't that hard to dodge. The archer dodged to the side and dodged the rapid fireball. He only suffered some area of effect damage. "Leave it to me," Fiercely shouted, stopping Ice Glaze from continuing to chant. Grandmasters of Combat were also a typical close combat profession. They had the advantage when facing an archer in close combat. Fiercely threw another round of punches at the archer, easily finishing him off. "Winner!" Fiercely raised his arms and cheered. Ice Glaze pursed her lips and didn't say anything. It seemed like she was already used to this. Fighting 2 archers consecutively, Fiercely used up a lot of mana. Of course, for a Grandmaster of Combat, mana was renamed as internal energy. Its nature was still the same. It was used up when releasing skills. Fiercely sat on the ground and munched on an apple to recover. He pointed at Gu Fei and shouted, "You're too bad. Can you do it? If you can't, let me do it." Gu Fei turned around and made an admiring expression at Fiercely, "Let me try again. If I can't do it, you do it." Fiercely nodded in satisfaction and taught Gu Fei, "You look like you've trained a little, right? That roundhouse kick just now wasn't bad." "I'm sorry." Gu Fei was humble. But Fiercely immediately said in a serious tone, "But Big Sister will teach you something. Although this kind of kick looks good, don't ever use it in a real battle. There are too many flaws." Gu Fei didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but he couldn't refute. His kick just now was indeed the type that looked fancy and had a lot of flaws. Ice Glaze patted Fiercely and said, "Hurry up and recover. There might be 2 more mages coming." The Mage Academy was a bit far from the North Gate. Most mages didn't run that fast. It would take some time to get here, but they would eventually arrive. "Is that so?" Lai Lai immediately became excited again. He increased the speed at which he ate the apple. At the same time, he took out a piece of bread. "Almost done, almost done." Fruits recovered magic power while other foods recovered life force. Sure enough, just as he finished eating, a head popped out from one of the streets. Fiercely was looking around in his lonesome when he saw the sneaky head. It was obvious that it didn't have good intentions. "He's here." Fiercely got up and rushed towards the entrance of the street. The head immediately retracted after seeing this. "Fiercely, don't be rash." Ice Glaze shouted anxiously and quickly chased after him. Fiercely paused for a bit and waited for Ice Glaze to catch up. The two ran to the entrance of the street together. They turned around but didn't see the head from before. "He ran away," Fiercely said regretfully. What they didn't know was that the person had already circled behind them, knocked an arrow and aimed at the two. The person who came was another archer. Fiercely and Ice Glaze didn't know, but Gu Fei saw something strange in Remnant Dream's eyes. He quickly looked back and yelled, "Don't shoot, we're on the same side." Following the yell, the arrow had already been released. The sneaky head came from Yutian Shenming. It was obvious that he was much better than the 2 archers from before. He knew the advantages of an archer and how to fight, so he didn't completely expose himself in front of the enemy. As soon as he saw that he was discovered, the first thing he did wasn't to knock an arrow and snipe, but to calmly change his strategy. He had purposely chosen the entrance of the street where he exposed himself. The street was short and the archer moved quickly. He quickly disappeared from the street, turned around, and went behind Fiercely and Ice Glaze from another street. The sound of the arrow whistled. With such a loud sound, it was obviously the strongest archer skill, snipe. Snipe from Yutian Shenming. Even little Rain was shot to death. Fiercely and Ice Glaze. Gu Fei closed his eyes and thought about how to explain this misunderstanding to the girls. The girls heard Gu Fei's yell and had already turned around. They saw the arrow coming towards them like a gust of wind. It was as if the arrow was going to pierce through the 2 of them. The 2 of them could only let out a scream before the arrow arrived in front of them. The speed of the snipe was not something that a normal player could dodge. Who would have thought that this sniper shot would not hit anyone? The sniper shot passed between Lai Lai's and Glazed Ice's heads. The wind caused the hair on their heads to flutter and their faces to turn pale. That was close. Yutian Shenming let out a long sigh. Gu Fei heard him mumble. He looked up and saw that the 2 girls were not dead. He was overjoyed. "You missed." "On purpose," Yutian Shenming said. It was hard to tell if it was true or not. "Good shot," Gu Fei praised. "You're the one who missed. I purposely turned to that position. It was because I shot accurately that they didn't die," Yutian Shenming shouted. Yutian Shenming muttered in his heart. "Another 2 girls. Is Qinli really that capable? Looks like I'll have to try his pickup line one day." "Why you here?" Gu Fei suddenly remembered that these people should be hiding in the Thieves' Guild. Why did they come to the North Gate? "Just passing by." Yutian Shenming was already behind Remnant Dream. He was talking to Gu Fei while winking at him. "What's up this time?" Gu Fei muttered in his heart. They probably talked about it in the mercenary channel, But Gu Fei didn't have the time to look at it right now. Hey, pretty girls. Yutian Shenming ignored Gu Fei and went to greet the two girls. Fiercely and Ice Glaze nodded at him. Fiercely, who had just finished off the two archers, had already started to look down on this class. Imperial Sky Divine Ming arrived just in time to give her a show of strength, making her think of that unbearably vulgar saying, "There are no trashy jobs, only trashy players." The three of them stood on the side of the road and watched Gu Fei's performance. "Are you his friend?" fiercely asked Yutian Shenming. Yutian Shenming nodded. "He can't do it. He won't even let us help," fiercely complained. Yutian Shenming nodded again and said, "Young people have to be given a chance to train, or else they'll never be able to do it. If you let me go, I'll be able to finish him off in 2 or 3 moves. There's no point." "Motherfucker." Gu Fei heard it clearly and cursed in his heart. Yutian Shenming was obviously looked down on by Gu Fei because of his age, so he took the opportunity to take revenge. "What is he practicing?" Ice Glaze asked curiously. She faintly felt that Gu Fei was using Remnant Dream as an experiment. Practicing swordsmanship." Yutian Shenming saw that Gu Fei was also randomly stabbing with his sword, so he casually said. Fiercely immediately laughed out loud, "Swordsmanship? How is this swordsmanship? I'm dying of laughter." Being laughed at, Gu Fei wasn't happy in his heart. But this time he was helpless. Who told him to put on such a lame act? How could an ordinary person understand this kind of brilliant technique that was full of ingenuity but not skill? If he tried to explain it to them, it would only make things worse. So he could only endure it. On the other side, Yutian Shenming didn't give up. He put on the weirdest expression he had in his life and mysteriously said to the two girls, "Let me tell you a secret, Qianli knows Kung Fu." Fiercely burst out laughing again. Even Ice Glaze couldn't hold back and pursed her lips to the side. Yutian Shenming very seriously said, "It's true." "Yes, we believe you." Fiercely held back his laughter and also put on a serious face. He clapped and said, "Good swordsmanship, huh?" In the end, he still couldn't hold back and continued to laugh. Hee hee. Yutian Shenming laughed sinisterly. His plot succeeded. In the eyes of these two girls, Gu Fei's image must be very comical, right? That's what you get for arrogantly looking down on me as an adult. Yutian Shenming thought happily. Gu Fei was naturally displeased that he was being mocked by others. He wanted to slap Remnant Dream a few more times, but when he saw the 3 footprints on her head, he gave up immediately. On the other side, Yutian Shenming came over. Suddenly, Gu Fei came to a realization. These guys knew that he must be pestering Remnant Dream to buy time, so he definitely didn't have time to read the news. This way, even if they were ready at the Thieves' Guild, they wouldn't be able to inform him. Thus, they sent Yutian Shenming, who ran the fastest, to be the messenger. This arrangement was really too considerate. Gu Fei, Han family young master, didn't have the face of a woman for nothing. He was really considerate. If it was Gu Fei who came up with this kind of plan, he might not be able to predict every detail. Just as he was thinking about this, he suddenly heard a thunderous sound behind him. "Yutian, you run really fast." Wasn't this Unscathed in Battle's voice? Gu Fei hurriedly turned around. Not only Unscathed in Battle, Brother Yu had also arrived, and they were striding towards him. What the hell was going on? This time, Gu Fei was completely confused. Before he could understand, a voice came from the other side. "Huh? They're all here, but I'm the slowest?" Gu Fei turned his head and saw the handsome face of the Han clan's young master. "Great, you're still catching him. Hurry up and catch him, let me deal with him personally." Han family young master said to the others. Ice Glaze suddenly realized Qianli was really stalling for time, waiting for this person to give him a chance to vent his anger. Remnant Dream looked at Han family young master in confusion. Who is this? When did I offend this person? She thought. Gu Fei naturally knew that this wasn't the case. While he was still confused, Han family young master had already waved his hand at Gu Fei. All right, don't you have something urgent to do? Hurry up and log off. Unscathed in Battle, Brother Yu, Han family young master, and even the ranged class Yutian Shenming all came up, trapping Remnant Dream in the middle. Gu Fei backed away in confusion. These people came one after another. What was the meaning of this? Then, the moment he brushed past Han Family Young Master, Gu Fei received a message from Han Family Young Master: go to the Thieves Guild, watch the Mercenary channel for the rest. Chapter 107. Gu Fei left the battlefield and rushed towards the Rogue Guild. The first thing he did on the way was to thank the two girls from the Reborn Amethyst who came to help him out. Even though one of them was just here to gossip, she had at least killed 2 archers and put in a lot of effort. Originally, Gu Fei wanted to say it in the guild channel, but as soon as he opened the channel, the record was refreshed once more, causing Gu Fei to faint. Gu Fei immediately closed it and swore that he would never open the guild channel again. He then added fiercely as a friend and sent each of them a message. Thank you for your help. Just leave the rest to them. You're welcome. Ice Glaze replied. Where are you going? Fiercely asked. The Rogue Guild. Gu Fei said. Oh. Fiercely seemed to understand and didn't say anything else. Gu Fei opened the Mercenary channel and looked at the chat history of the others. Only then did he understand the situation. The reason for this arrangement was because Remnant Dream was a rogue. These people often hunted and killed for equipment, so they should be very familiar with the respawn point. If he was wary of the enemy's arrangements in the Rogue Guild, he would definitely use stealth to leave. The only one who could see through stealth was Gu Fei, even though they didn't know what method Gu Fei was using. They really didn't understand. Gu Fei smiled bitterly. He could sense people in stealth. Saying it was killing intent was a cool explanation. In reality, he could feel the other party's attention on him. The principle lay in the collision of auras between people. As martial artists cultivated their body and chi for a long period of time, their inner breath was much stronger than that of ordinary people. As a result, the resulting aura was also more sensitive. Thus, they could detect this kind of minuscule collision. Endocrine imbalance would cause a person's aura to be chaotic, and with a chaotic aura, it would be difficult to sense other people's attention. It seemed that there was a reasonable explanation for his failure to complete the mission. Gu Fei thought. He was never one to back down easily, but at this time, a group of people who didn't know the situation had placed all their hopes on Gu Fei's aura. Is my aura that strong? Gu Fei had a rare lack of confidence. While sighing, Gu Fei hurried on his way. No matter what, he had to get there first. Over at the North Gate mailbox, Remnant Dream was surrounded by 4 people with 3 big footprints on his face. Each of them had been blessed by Brother Yu. 3 of them didn't do anything at all. They just watched as the Han Family Young Master bombarded him with the weakest spell in the parallel world, Holy Light Ball. Weak power, slow speed, and dazzling light were the only advantages of this spell. In order to stall for time, the Han Family Young Master's Holy Light Ball would miss from time to time. Remnant Dream waved his dagger and rushed around, but the 4 people cooperated and kept him in the center of the circle. Plus, with the perfect recovery spell from the Han Family Young Master, everything Remnant Dream did was useless. This scene was simply like 4 cats teasing a mouse. Just think about how cruel this was. In the spirit of gossip, Glazed Ice and Lai Lai, who did not leave the scene immediately, could not bear to watch any longer. The 2 of them held hands and encouraged each other as they prepared to leave. What are you going to do? Ice Glaze asked fiercely. I'm going to find Qianli. Fiercely said. Why are you looking for him? Glazed Ice was curious. My woman's instinct tells me that if I follow him, I'll get into a fight. Fiercely said. You're a PK maniac. Ice Glaze was speechless. Fiercely chuckled. The girls in Amethyst's guild were all pacifist. Other than her, no one else had such a hobby. Normally, when they were out leveling, they would occasionally have small conflicts with others. But every time Fiercely flew into a rage and tried to use force, the other girls would first pacify her and then negotiate with the other party. Now that the players' levels were high and they had accumulated a lot of experience, they would try to avoid PK if they could. Looking at the group of girls, any of them would be willing to give in to the other party. There was no way they would fight. Fiercely only had a bad temper, but she wasn't the type to cause trouble for no reason. It wasn't easy to find an opportunity to PK. Seeing that Gu Fei was engaged in a PK drama to clear his name, He couldn't help but feel an itch in his heart. He couldn't wait to get involved. Ice Glaze was calmer and advised, "Don't cause trouble for him. Be good and let's go level." Fiercely didn't care, "Then I'll watch from the side. If there's an emergency, I'll fall from the sky." "Cool. You just want to fight," Ice Glaze said. Fiercely pinched Ice Glaze's face. "If I hadn't arrived, would you have been able to deal with those 2 archers?" Ice Glaze was speechless. Archers were the bane of mages. Not to mention 2, even 1 Ice Glaze would be hard to deal with. Moreover, she was an absolute pacifist and never participated in PK. Just now, when he had helped Gu Fei throw that Heaven's Fire wheel, he was trembling as he chanted. After he was done, he realized that he had almost killed Gu Fei. He blamed himself for not having any PvP experience, so he shouldn't have acted recklessly. With her skills, let alone an archer, even a warrior who was countered by a mage would have a hard time winning. If Fiercely hadn't appeared in time, it would have been troublesome. "Heh, you have nothing to say, right? Go and level up. I'm leaving." Fiercely turned around and ran. "Be careful," Ice Glaze yelled. Fiercely waved his hand and ran further and further away. Remnant Dream, who was by the mailbox, was about to be killed by the Holy Light Orb. Their reinforcements still hadn't appeared. Normal mages didn't have the speed of Gu Fei. It would take a while for them to arrive from the mage camp. As for the 2 archers, they knew that they couldn't win, so they wouldn't come to their deaths. They were gathering people to attack together. The Han family's young master and the others, who had plenty of battle experience, naturally realized that Remnant Dream's dead helper was definitely on the way. According to the information brother you had gathered, this was a group of people with decent equipment and high PvP standards. They were also much more united than the average guild. The mercenary group only had 6 people, so they couldn't fight them head-on. They had to hurry up. "Mage Quan Min, are you here yet?" Han family young master asked Gu Fei. I'm here. I can see the door. You guys can start now." Gu Fei said. Han family young master immediately said in the mercenary channel, "Do it." The 3 of them stood there like idiots and asked each other in the channel, "Who did he attack first?" "I forgot." The 3 of them said. Han family young master was furious. "Why are you still dilly-dallying over some PK points at a time like this?" The 3 of them glanced at him and said in the channel, "Aren't you the same? He can just use the Holy Light Orb to kill him. Why aren't you doing anything?" "I'm a pure and noble priest. How can I be tainted by something as filthy as PK points?" Han family young master cursed. Everyone booed. "Fuck you." Gu Fei, who was squatting outside the Thieves' Guild, had the most reason to be unhappy. According to Han family young master's description, wasn't he playing Super Mario in a small cesspool? At this moment, the sword ghost, who was hiding somewhere, said weakly in the tone of an experienced person, "Stop arguing. He really doesn't touch things like PK points." "Really? My intel didn't mention this." "Brother," you exclaimed. "What? Are you a neat freak?" Yutian Shenming asked. Gu Fei expressed his disdain. "Must you guys wait until he realizes that we're stalling for time to set up an ambush and then make arrangements outside the Thieves' Guild?" Han family young master said. Sword Demon, who was familiar with him, could already picture his unique, gentle expression. Yutian Shenming and the other 2 who were at the scene saw it with their own eyes. At this moment, Zhan Wushang displayed the decisiveness that a mature man should have. Without a second word, he went up and killed Remnant Dream with his sword. "Chen Li, get ready," Han family young master ordered. "Roger," Gu Fei replied. Gu Fei, who was hiding outside the Thieves' Guild, peeked inside. He immediately saw the reborn Remnant Dream die. The 3 footprints on her face had also been washed away by her rebirth. As soon as he revived, he immediately ran out of the door. How convenient! Gu Fei was happy. Looking at him, it was obvious that he wasn't going to do any stealth. Gu Fei retracted his body, only to see Remnant Dream scurrying out of the Thieves' Guild. Gu Fei shouted and jumped out. Everyone looked over, including Remnant Dream. "It's you." Remnant Dream froze and immediately understood what was going on. He was very familiar with this kind of ambush at the revival point. It was because Gu Fei's skills were too high and the Han family young master's acting was too realistic. In the end, he was completely fooled. And Gu Fei's skills were still very influential. Remnant Dream saw him, but he wasn't afraid at all. This was a guy who could kick him without hurting him, but couldn't kill him with a weapon. Remnant Dream still thought that way. Thus, he calmly stared at Gu Fei's sword and smiled as he waved his dagger to block. Chapter 108. Gu Fei's sword went around Remnant Dream's dagger and stabbed him. Then he roared and activated the skill Double Flame Flash, killing Remnant Dream without any suspense. When Remnant Dream returned to the resurrection point, the calm expression on his face was still there. He didn't seem to have realized what was going on. He was fighting with Gu Fei just now, and in the blink of an eye, he was teleported to the resurrection point a few meters away. That was amazing. Remnant Dream thought to himself and then realized that he had become level 26. That's right, he died twice and dropped 4 levels. The pitiful Remnant Dream had died. In the battle where she had ambushed the Sword Spectre, the final PK point had fallen to him. This PK point caused him to die once and drop 2 levels. Now that he died twice, he was naturally at level 4. A person's expression from full of confidence and calmness to suddenly being at a loss of what to do was very interesting. Gu Fei stood outside the resurrection area, admiring it and not moving. Now that Remnant Dream had died, she was definitely going to activate stealth. Gu Fei stood in front of the door. He believed that Remnant Dream would definitely notice him. That way, he would be able to see through his stealth. If Remnant Dream calmly ignored him, then Gu Fei would be at his wit's end. Remnant Dream was indeed very calm. He stood calmly in the resurrection point and didn't come out. Frankly speaking, there was really no need for him to come out. He could just sit here and wait for reinforcements. The loss of 4 levels of death didn't make Remnant Dream lose his cool. Gu Fei helplessly sent a message to the others. I killed him once. He's squatting in the resurrection point and won't come out. Everyone was also helpless. It wasn't easy to trick an experienced guy like Remnant Dream into rushing out of the resurrection point and being killed once. Everyone could only sigh. Remnant Dream didn't drop anything after dying twice, but Sword Demon dropped Frostbite's memories after dying once. Other than luck, there was really no other reasonable explanation. Gu Fei also regretted that Remnant Dream didn't take out Frostbite's memories to use. If that was the case, he might have been able to seize it with his bare hands. Retrieving Frostbite's memories was obviously an even more difficult task than clearing his name. Gu Fei and Remnant Dream were dead. The two of them glared at each other across the boundary between the safe zone and the non-safe zone. Come out if you have the guts. Gu Fei said. This was a common method used in the game to provoke others. Hunting in the game was much more tiring than in real life. In real life, 1 kill was enough, but in the game, there was no end to the endless revivals. Not many people had the patience to hunt him down every day unless there was a huge grudge between them. Under normal circumstances, everyone would gather their friends and find a place to have a big duel. The most commonly used phrase was to declare war on the other party after everyone was gathered. Come out if you have the guts. However, Gu Fei had only stumbled upon it by accident. He did not have any experience in fighting. Remnant Dream naturally wouldn't let Gu Fei off lightly. At this time, he was secretly laughing at Gu Fei for being an idiot. Defending here alone, wasn't that the same as waiting for death? At this time, he was hoping that his brothers would quickly appear and dismember Gu Fei. He had died 4 times, so he had to kill this guy 4 times no matter what. That's right, there were also his accomplices. Each of them had to do it 4 times. That's right, those 2 girls. I'll do it twice each. Remnant Dream was still in the mood to have tender feelings for the fairer sex. It could be seen that modesty was deeply ingrained in female players. Remnant Dream was so focused on the pleasure of revenge that he forgot to ask why Gu Fei wanted to kill him. Of course, Gu Fei and the others were happy to do so. If they didn't let him realize that this matter had something to do with Sword Demon and Frostbite's memories, then the chances of retrieving Frostbite's memories would increase. Otherwise, if the other party came and swapped hands with a dozen people, Who knew who Frostbite's memories would switch to? This was the reason why Sword Demon hadn't shown himself. What's the situation now? Han family young master asked. In the middle of a standoff. Gu Fei said, "Why aren't you leaving? Their helpers will be here soon." "Brother," you said, "if they don't have many helpers, then I'll kill them all. If they have many, then I'll enter the safe zone. What's there to be afraid of?" Gu Fei said, "Awesome." The few experts were sincerely impressed. "Qianli, what's your PK value now?" Sword Demon expressed his concern. Of course, he was the most touched. Gu Fei did this all for him. 6. Oh no, 7. Gu Fei cried. "Tsk tisk." Everyone sighed. "We're also on our way here. We'll hide in the shadows and support you when necessary." Han family young master said, "No need. You guys better continue to guard the mailbox. If I hide in the resurrection point, won't he still have to send something to the mailbox?" Gu Fei said, "That makes sense." The Han family young master then went to make arrangements. "Come out, boy, come out." Gu Fei continued to provoke. Remnant Dream pretended that, "I don't have you in my eyes." The passing players would stop to watch for a while and ask around. This put a lot of pressure on Remnant Dream. In everyone's eyes, Remnant Dream's death was a coward. It was just one person challenging him, and he was hiding in the safe zone, not daring to come out. He was too useless. Before the players left, they all looked at him with disdain. Remnant Dream's heart was burning with anxiety after being despised. Fortunately, this situation wouldn't last for much longer. His companions informed him that they were about to arrive at the Thieves' Guild. "You good for nothing, good for nothing. I despise you. I'm not wasting my time with you anymore. I'm leaving." At this moment, Gu Fei made a few sarcastic remarks and suddenly turned around to leave. Remnant Dream was anxious. This was like reading a YY novel. The main character was in a sorry state and had finally gotten through his growing up. Just as he was waiting for the moment where he could climb to the top and look down on all the other mountains, the novel ended. How depressing was this? Remnant Dream rushed out of the safe zone and shouted, "Don't leave if you have the guts." Just as he stepped out of the safe zone, a flash of light flashed by. Remnant Dream heard the word, "flash." His vision flickered and his mind went blank. He was back in the safe zone again. Gu Fei's figure appeared from the side of the Thieves' Guild's door. "You called me? I haven't gone far yet." Remnant Dream felt suffocated. He was so angry that his entire body was trembling. "You dropped something." Gu Fei bent down and picked up an item from the ground. "Double-edged fong? Is it yours?" "Yes, Katie said." Gu Fei casually glanced at it, raised his hand and threw it away. On one hand, it was to continue looking down on Remnant Dream and ruin his mood. On the other hand, it was to create an illusion that Gu Fei and the others were not interested in dropping his items. When the surrounding audience heard the words, "double-edged fong," they were already booing in envy. Double-edged fong was the dagger with the highest normal attack. In other words, it was the highest end dagger. Even a white-grade dagger could be sold for tens of gold coins. When they saw Gu Fei casually throw it away like it was trash, it attracted even more screams of shock. A few people who were close to it didn't care about their image and pounced on it like wolves and tigers. In the end, it was obtained by one person. When he held it in his hand, he exclaimed again, "Lacerate." Lacerate meant that when attacking, it would cause a wound on the target. The wound would cause the target's HP to drop continuously. Not only could it increase the efficiency of killing monsters, it was also a very troublesome effect in PvP. At the moment, clerics did not know how to heal such wounds. To heal them, they needed to use hemostatic medicine or bandages. Think about it, in the process of PvP, who would have the time to stop and bandage? But think about how annoying it was to create a wound in the middle of a battle. Gu Fei had once stabbed Shi Xiaotian out with a flying knife, and had also been cut out by Xiao Yu's whirlwind slash. However, there was a certain degree of chance. It was the result of the simulation system's judgment of the character's injury. It was not the same thing as the lacerate attached to the dagger. In short, the highest end dagger with a very practical lacerate attached to it could easily be sold for 100 gold coins. Now that it had been casually thrown away by Gu Fei, the crowd didn't know what to say anymore. Gu Fei continued to ignore it and smiled at the lucky person who had picked up the double-edged fang. The crowd was excited. For some reason, they already had a good impression of Gu Fei. They began to help Gu Fei mock and ridicule Remnant Dream's death. Remnant Dream felt extremely wronged. It was clearly Gu Fei who had killed him without any reason. Now he had even dropped his weapon. Why did he make it seem like he was the sinner now? Gu Fei also didn't expect that his plan to kill two birds with one stone would have a third effect. Seeing Remnant Dream's twisted expression, Gu Fei sent a message in the mercenary channel, "Sword Demon, you should really come over and look at this guy's expression. I guarantee that it's more worth it than killing him 10 levels." "What did you do?" the crowd asked. "I tricked him into coming out and killing him again. Unfortunately, it was his dagger that dropped and not Frostbite's memories." Gu Fei said with a bit of regret. "It's easier to drop equipment on your body than in your pocket. Brother, you always liked to provide information he knew to others. I hope he'll take out Frostbite's memories and use it." Gu Fei looked at Remnant Dream expectantly. Unfortunately, Remnant Dream no longer had the courage to fight against Gu Fei. He kept calling for his comrades in the chat channel. "We're already here. We're waiting for the others." Someone replied. "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and get rid of him." Remnant Dream hated Gu Fei to the core. "There's only a few of us. There's so many of them." The comrade who came over said, "How? It's just him." Remnant Dream said, "Are you kidding? A group of people surrounding the Thieves' Guild." The comrade said, "They're just here to watch the show. Don't worry about it." Remnant Dream said, "Really?" The comrade was puzzled. It wasn't strange to watch the show, but it was rare to see someone who would help. The group in front of him was cursing loudly. Most of them were shouting rhythmically, "Come out! Come out! If you have the guts, come out!" Were they here to watch the show? They were clearly here to challenge him. They're really here to watch the show. Remnant Dream was about to cry. "Hurry up and get rid of that guy." I'm coming." The comrade thought that since no one knew them, it shouldn't be a problem to squeeze in and see what was going on. He immediately mixed into the crowd and pretended to ask the player next to him, "Brother, what's going on? It's so lively." The player pointed at Gu Fei, who was standing in the middle of the circle. "This brother is amazing. I don't know why he's chasing people, but he didn't even look at the good equipment that they dropped and just threw it to the side." "That guy inside." The player pointed at Remnant Dream, who was in the safe zone, and continued to explain, "That guy is a bear. Anyone who has a double-edged tooth belt is considered a fierce person, right? Now he's holed up in there and doesn't even dare to let out a fart. TSK, the bear." Although their comrade was looked down upon, the comrade finally relaxed. At least they knew that this group of people was indeed an audience. They just chose to stand on Gu Fei's side because of Remnant Dream's cowardly performance. But everything was about to end. This kid's arrogance should also come to an end. The few of them exchanged glances and suddenly jumped into the circle together. "Fuck, they're here." Remnant Dream slapped his thigh and swept away his dejection. He was not afraid that his voice would remind Gu Fei. In his view, there were 7 of his comrade and Gu Fei was alone. There was nothing to be afraid of. Gu Fei heard the voice and turned around. There were 7 people standing behind him, eyeing him like a tiger watching its prey. The crowd that had been supporting Gu Fei suddenly quieted down. The players were all very practical. They were just helping out for fun. At this time, when they saw that the PK situation had escalated, they knew that they would be dragged into the quarrel if they continued to yell. So they immediately chose to shut up. "They're here," Gu Fei said. "I've been waiting for you for a long time." The 7 looked at each other and looked around vigilantly. Is there an ambush? The 7 thought. But there was nothing unusual around them. Gu Fei looked at their attire and pointed at them one by one. "Mage? Archer? Warrior? Priest? Pointing at the last one, Gu Fei was confused. "You're a grandmaster of combat, right?" "I'm a warrior too." The last one was dissatisfied. The other 6 could recognize their class. Why couldn't they recognize him? What a pity. Gu Fei looked regretful. If you were a Grandmaster of Combat, wouldn't you have all 7 classes? Each has their own strengths, just like the Calabash brothers. How spectacular! The 7 stared at Gu Fei, wondering if there was any deeper meaning behind his strange words. You go. Gu Fei said to the 7th warrior. Get another Grandmaster of Combat. You won't be my match later. Maybe the 7 Calabash brothers can combine into a Calabash King Kong. Fuck! This person was playing dumb and making fun of the 7 of them. The 7 of them were furious. They waved their weapons and surrounded him. Gu Fei sighed. It wasn't hard for him to take care of the 7 of them. However, he was about to earn 7 more PK points. Resistance Ring of Fire. Gu Fei raised his sword and commanded. He released the spell that he mastered when he was a level 6 mage. However, this was the most basic and weakest defensive spell that a mage could use. The game design didn't make it look like a menacing attack. However, the higher the proficiency level, the closer the spell's appearance would be to the definition of a ring of fire. Unfortunately, Gu Fei's proficiency level was close to 0. A small fireball circled around Gu Fei's body. It looked lonely, and it made Gu Fei, who was surrounded by the 7 of them, look very pitiful. When the 7 of them saw this scene, they all laughed arrogantly. One of them remembered Gu Fei's mockery of the Calabash brothers and said sarcastically, Brother, your little ball looks really mighty. We're so scared. Is that so? Then don't come any closer, Gu Fei said calmly. Yeah. I don't dare to come closer, the person said as he strode towards Gu Fei. He was a warrior, and the meager damage from the Ring of Fire resistance that he understood was just a trivial matter to a warrior. In the blink of an eye, the warrior had reached the range of Gu Fei's resistance Ring of Fire. With low proficiency and a small range, the warrior and Gu Fei were almost face to face. The fireball moved so slowly that it looked like a will-o'-the-wisp, as if it could fall at any time. The warrior stepped into the range and laughed at the small fireball. Your little fireball is going to float on me. I'm going to die. As soon as he finished speaking, the fireball floated on him. Gu Fei also quietly pulled out the Dark Night streamer. The warrior disappeared in a flash of white light. The small fireball was still there, floating weakly around Gu Fei. Gu Fei shook his head and sighed. You left quietly, just like how you came quietly. Gu Fei waved his sleeves and looked up. Next. The remaining 6 of the 7 brothers looked at each other. They couldn't see how the warrior had died. Killed by the resistance Ring of Fire? As a rational player, no one would believe such a ridiculous fact. They suspected that there was something fishy about Gu Fei, or that there was someone around to stab him in the back. The mage among the 6 waved his staff. Fireball, shoot! A fireball shot out. Good one! Gu Fei shouted. He swung his sword at the flying fireball. Gu Fei had wanted to try this for a long time. The tracking ability of the fireball spell made it very troublesome to dodge. Gu Fei remembered that Little Rain had once used her axe to break the fireball spell. He felt that this method was a good way to deal with the fireball. With a swing of his sword, the fireball exploded in the air. Gu Fei felt the heat wave from the spreading flames. He glanced at his health and saw that it had dropped a little. It seemed that his sword had turned the fireball into a spell with area of effect damage. But this bit of damage was not a problem. Don't be fooled by that guy. Let's get rid of him together. Remnant Dream was anxious in the safe zone. From his point of view, they were outnumbered and Gu Fei had no choice but to provoke them. The warrior was obviously careless. He went up alone and was taken care of by Gu Fei using some unknown method, causing the remaining people to be suspicious. Now that he had only used a fireball, everyone looked at him in a new light. With the speed of the fireball, would it be difficult to destroy it? These idiots! Remnant Dream cursed in his heart, but he kept urging them. He's just bluffing. He's alone, what are you afraid of? Go! The 6 clenched their teeth. With a loud shout, they surrounded him. Thinking back to the past, Gu Fei was able to remain undefeated under the layers of encirclement with his sword. Now that he understood the strength of his spells, he had begun to use dual flame flash to complement his kung fu moves. It could be said that the problem of Gu Fei's weak attack power, which he had been complaining about, had now been solved. Although this was not the solution he had hoped for. But no matter what, the truth was, he had become stronger. Gu Fei didn't care about the encirclement of a mere 6 people. Gu Fei only slightly dodged the attacks of the warrior, paladin and rogue. Then, the resistance ring of fire floated to their bodies and dealt damage, causing them to scream. "What is this?" The warrior roared after half of his health was taken. He was different from the warrior who had just been sacrificed. He had put more points into vitality so his health was higher, but he was also frightened by the damage. "Quick, heal me." The 3 people rushed to the cleric and shouted. The pitiful cleric could only heal 1 target at a time. For a moment, he didn't know what to do and blindly pointed at a random target. Gu Fei didn't care who he was trying to save. With a shout, dual flame flash was once again lit up. After using this spell many times, Gu Fei had already quickly grasped many of the key points of this spell. This spell summoned a flame to ignite the target. When holding a weapon, the flame would appear on the weapon. When using bare hands, the flame would appear between the fingers. What was different from other spells was that dual flame flash wouldn't be like a fireball that would rush towards its target. It was like an ordinary match that was lit. In order to ignite a target, the person holding the match would need to send the flame over. In addition, when the fireball came into contact with a target, the fireball would immediately explode and disappear. The flame of dual flame flash lasted for a short period of time. In other words, during this period of time, any target that came into contact with the flame would be ignited. In other words, as long as it was used properly, dual flame flash could also achieve an area of effect. But for a normal mage, being able to ignite a target in one go was already not bad. But as a full agility mage, because of his faster attack speed, Gu Fei could already control dual flame flash to burn 180 degrees. In the future, if he put in more agility, 360 degrees, or even 720 degrees would be possible. Right now, this dual flame flash was being burned from left to right by Gu Fei. The knight and thief in front of him were already taken care of. The warrior behind him was already very lucky. He had just received the cleric's healing spell and thought that he could survive. But who knew that the small fireball from the resistance ring of fire had already floated in a circle and was about to burn his body. The warrior was shocked and retreated, but he wasn't as fast as Gu Fei. As Gu Fei followed, he held out the sword in his hand and chanted, "Fireball, shoot!" This time, the warrior wasn't able to resist the 3 attacks. A white light flashed and he chased after his companion. Gu Fei turned his sword and pointed at the archer and mage who were trying to find an opening to attack Gu Fei. But most of his attention was left behind. Gu Fei didn't forget that he only had one goal, Remnant Dream. Just as the 6 people surrounded him, he noticed that Remnant Dream had activated stealth and quietly slipped out. At this time, the archer and mage had already realized how powerful Gu Fei was and didn't dare to face him directly. They frantically moved around in the small circle outside the Thieves' Guild, looking for an opportunity to attack Gu Fei. Unfortunately, Gu Fei wasn't the slow-moving mage that they thought he was. In a few steps, the real mage had already been caught up by Gu Fei. His sword fell and the mage only managed to say 2 words before he was dealt with by Gu Fei. The archer saw that Gu Fei was chasing after the mage and thought that this was his chance. He hurriedly pulled out an arrow and prepared to shoot, but he didn't expect that Gu Fei would deal with the mage so quickly. In the blink of an eye, Gu Fei had already turned around and was running towards him. In this small circle outside the door, the archer's long-range attack advantage couldn't be used at all. Instead, he needed to knock an arrow, draw the bow, and aim slowly. Before the arrow could be released, Gu Fei was already in front of him. His hand panicked and the arrow was shot out in a mess. There was a scream from the surrounding crowd. The archer turned and ran, but Gu Fei didn't chase after him. He could already feel a murderous aura coming from behind him. "It's coming!" Gu Fei focused his mind and suddenly dashed forward. The figure behind him appeared at the same time and shouted, Fuck. Remnant Dream Death was extremely annoyed. Why did he attack at the same time the opponent took this step? He didn't even realize that Gu Fei had deliberately dodged. I'm coming. At the same time Remnant Dream Death appeared, there was a shout from the crowd, and a fiery red figure flew out. Gu Fei didn't care. Because the moment he turned around, he saw clearly that Remnant Dream Death was holding the Sword Demon's Frostbite's memories. Even if he was killed and his level dropped, he had to snatch back Frostbite's memories. Gu Fei put the sword back into his pocket and was ready to attack regardless. He didn't expect that the target of this "I'm coming" was not Gu Fei, but Remnant Dream Death. She was already in front of him. Hey! With a shout, she grabbed Remnant Dream Death and waved her arm. Gu Fei hurriedly reached out, but it was too late. He could only watch as Remnant Dream Death and Frostbite's memories were thrown out of the crowd. In front of him, Fiercely was looking at Gu Fei proudly. Thank you for saving you. You idiot! Gu Fei roared at her and chased out of the crowd without looking back. What did you say? Fiercely was furious and chased after him with his fists. Chapter 109. Remnant Dream didn't fall to his death. He knew that Gu Fei was right behind him, so he didn't dare to return to the safe zone. He got up and ran. Make way! Make way! Gu Fei shouted as he squeezed his way through the crowd. The crowd was on Gu Fei's side, but at this moment, the crowd was already out of his control. Although he wanted to make way, 80% of the crowd was still squeezed out by Gu Fei. With Gu Fei's meager strength, squeezing out of the crowd was more strenuous than fighting the 7 Calabash brothers. Behind him, Fiercely was still shouting, "Stop!" Gu Fei was annoyed to death by her. He tried his best not to turn around and stab her. It looked like she was helping him out of kindness, but Gu Fei guessed that she was just showing off. It was hard for him to have a good impression of her. With great difficulty, Remnant Dream rushed out of the crowd. He was already 50 meters away. This was a distance that even Fireball couldn't reach. There was no way for Gu Fei to kill him, so he could only run as fast as he could. Although Remnant Dream was only level 24, as a thief, he had an advantage in agility compared to Gu Fei. At this moment, he was holding Frostbite's memories, which gave him 25 agility. Coupled with the 14% movement speed buff from Shadow Boots, his speed wasn't slow at all. However, the movement speed in the game was accurate. After chasing for a while, Gu Fei discovered that his speed was still slightly faster than Remnant Dream's. The distance between the two was gradually shrinking. Remnant Dream looked back as he ran. Seeing that Gu Fei was getting closer and closer, he became even more flustered. He wanted to ask for help from his companions, but he didn't dare to send a message while running at full speed. It was like reading a book while running. If he didn't fall, he would hit a tree. This time, Remnant Dream didn't want to die no matter what. He was currently level 24. If he lost another level, he would lose stealth. Stealth was undoubtedly a thief's specialty. It was a skill that reflected their strengths. Any thief would spend a lot of time training this skill. Remnant Dream's death was no exception. When she thought about how she would lose all the effort she had put into sneaking around, her heart trembled. Unable to find the time to send a message, Remnant Dream could only use the most primitive method, running while shouting, "Save me! I'm here!" He hoped that his companions, who were nearby, could hear his cry for help, but he was quickly met with disdainful looks from the surrounding players. PvP happened every day, but to be scared by PvP and call for help was a disgrace to the game. The two continued to speed up the speed of life and death. In the blink of an eye, they were already at the intersection of the street. Remnant Dream chose to turn without hesitation. This situation was obviously very disadvantageous to Gu Fei. After turning a corner, he changed his appearance and blended into the crowd. It wasn't easy to find him. Coincidentally, there were many players passing through the streets near the safe zone. Everything seemed to be developing in Remnant Dream's favor. As expected, by the time Gu Fei reached the intersection and turned, the running figure had already disappeared from his sight. Among the players walking back and forth, who knew who Remnant Dream had died to? Gu Fei carefully walked on the street and looked left and right at the players, but he still couldn't find him. Gu Fei helplessly sent a message to his companions in the mercenary group. Sorry, he probably ran away. What happened? I was careless and let him run out of the safe zone. Gu Fei said. It's okay. If you recognize him, you'll have a chance in the future. I can't get back Frostbite's memories. Just a little bit more. Gu Fei was extremely depressed. Originally, he knew that it wouldn't be easy to get back Frostbite's memories, but just now, the opportunity was right in front of him, almost within reach. But, hey! Just as he was thinking, someone beside him shouted for Gu Fei. Gu Fei turned around and saw that it was Fiercely who had also chased over. He immediately went forward and grabbed her collar. Why are you still following me? What? Let me go! With Fiercely's temper, she wouldn't be so easily frightened by Gu Fei. The surrounding players began to stop and watch. Gu Fei also thought that the other party was a girl and his actions seemed a bit too bold. Thus, he let go of her hand and angrily said, "Don't follow me anymore." What? I'm helping you, Fiercely said. Didn't you see that you threw him away? Gu Fei roared. If I didn't throw him away, he would have stabbed you. You're just a small mage, so wouldn't you be instantly killed? Fiercely said confidently. Do you have cancer in your eyes? Didn't you see that I already dodged? Gu Fei said. Don't brag. Fiercely curled her lips. A normal person wouldn't be able to see that Gu Fei had already dodged. Apart from Remnant Dream himself, no one would know that his backstab had already been used up. Bystanders would think that his backstab was still in progress. Fiercely thought that he had appeared just in time. Otherwise, Gu Fei would have been stabbed. There was no way to explain this, and Gu Fei was too lazy to explain. He coldly said, "Anyways, just don't follow me." You're being unreasonable, Fiercely yelled. If I was being unreasonable, I would have already hacked you to death, Gu Fei said. Alright, come at me. Fiercely took the initiative to attack. He waved his hand and sent a fist smashing over. Gu Fei slightly raised his hand. His palm moved to the side and the power of the fist was sent in another direction. With a hook of his foot, Fiercely unhesitatingly threw himself on the ground, causing dust to fly everywhere. Not everyone will give in to you girls. Gu Fei coldly said, "Don't get in my way anymore." With that said, he turned around and walked away. Fiercely was finally scared this time. He flipped over and sat on the ground in a daze. He had casually thrown himself on the ground. This was definitely not a skill or technique in the game. Fiercely, who also had some foundation in Kung Fu, knew better than others what was going on. This guy knew Kung Fu. Moreover, he didn't know how many times stronger he was. He was a person who truly knew Kung Fu. Gu Fei, who had left Fiercely behind, walked the entire street. He still couldn't see Remnant Dream's figure. He could only sigh deeply. Then he sent a message to the guys in the mercenary group. We can't catch up. Which city gate mailbox are you guys hiding at? I'll go guard one too. There's no one guarding the west gate. You go. Okay. Gu Fei closed the chat channel and looked up to identify the direction. Then he saw a girl waving at him from the side of the street. She had a faint smile on her face. She Xiaotian. I'm in a hurry. I can't talk to you now. Gu Fei waved at her as a greeting. Then he buried his head and prepared to continue on his way. Don't rush. Shi Xiaotian ran over to stop Gu Fei. I'm really in a hurry, Gu Fei said. Shi Xiaotian smiled and pointed at Fiercely, who was still sitting on the ground. That's too much. Gu Fei glanced back and said, I hope you held back. Otherwise, if I twist her head off, what else can you use to describe me? Is it that serious? I'll tell you when I have time. I really have something to do right now. Gu Fei walked around Shi Xiaotian and quickly ran. Shi Xiaotian didn't let him go. She turned around and chased after him. What? Gu Fei asked. You run and I run. Why do you care? Shi Xiaotian said. You run pretty fast. Gu Fei said. There were very few people in the game who put all their points into dexterity. Sometimes, even thieves or archers might not be faster than Gu Fei. I also put all my points into dexterity. Plus, I have the advantage of my profession, Shi Xiaotian said. But What's your profession? Gu Fei asked. He still didn't know Shi Xiaoyan's profession. This girl's profession couldn't be determined from her clothing. For example, when they first met, she was wearing a purple robe. Gu Fei already knew that it was a robe worn by priests. At this moment, she was wearing a thief's cloak. Archer. Shi Xiaoyan's answer was completely different from her equipment. A full dexterity archer obviously wouldn't be slower than Gu Fei. This was the profession with the greatest advantage in dexterity. Gu Fei nodded and didn't say anything else. Go kill someone. Shi Xiaotian tried to talk to him. I hope so. Gu Fei said. Indeed, he hoped that Remnant Dream would die at Westgate's mailbox. Without another word, Gu Fei ran all the way to Westgate with Shi Xiaotian following him. Gu Fei looked at her strangely, but she pretended not to see it. Seeing that Remnant Dream didn't die at Westgate's mailbox, Gu Fei let out a sigh of relief. He had already rushed here at full speed. If Remnant Dream came here from that place, she probably wouldn't be faster than him. Gu Fei retreated to the side of the street. If Remnant Dream saw him from afar, she naturally wouldn't come over. Gu Fei hid in a corner and looked at the mailbox. Suddenly he smacked his head. He was so stupid. He kept thinking that if Remnant Dream had Frostbite's memory in his hands, why didn't she just wait for him to mail it? If he wanted to mail it, he obviously had to put Frostbite's memory in his hands. It was enough for him to snatch it. At this moment, Gu Fei was extremely annoyed at the fact that he kicked Remnant Dream out of the mailbox. He didn't think that he would lose a great opportunity to snatch back Frostbite's memory not just once, but twice. This method wasn't going to work so well now. At that time, Remnant Dream could let Gu Fei be by her side, and he was very polite and friendly. Now, when Gu Fei was still 50 meters away from him, he was already shouting for help. It was almost impossible to snatch back Frostbite's memory while he was sending it. Gu Fei was so regretful that he wanted to bang his head against the wall. Why do you suddenly look so regretful? Shi Xiaotian asked him. I'm so stupid really. Gu Fei said. I agree. Shi Xiaotian said. Gu Fei looked up to the sky and sighed. In the end he asked Shi Xiaotian, what do you want to do by following me here? If you want to help me, I have to make some rules with you, so that you don't make the same mistake as Fiercely. Who wants to help you? I'm just here to mail something. Shi Xiaotian said coldly and walked towards the mailbox. Gu Fei glanced at her listlessly and didn't pay attention to her anymore. Shi Xiaotian arrived in front of the mailbox and looked back. Gu Fei was focused on a few nearby intersections. Shi Xiaotian smiled and took something out of his pocket. He knocked on the mailbox a few times and said, I'm going to send something. Send it then. Why are you shouting? Gu Fei glanced at her, and his eyes suddenly lit up. In Shi Xiaoyan's hand was a dagger that emitted alternating blue and white light. Even if Gu Fei didn't know appraisal, he could tell what it was at a glance. He instantly rushed over and grabbed Shi Xiaoyan's wrist. How did you get this? Gu Fei's eyes flashed with a cold light. What do you think? Shi Xiaotian smiled like a flower. Gu Fei didn't say anything. When he chased after Remnant Dream and died, Frostbite's memory was in his hands. Naturally, Shi Xiaoyan got it when he turned the corner and she greeted him. Actually, your initial guess wasn't wrong. I'm indeed with them, Shi Xiaotian said. Gu Fei's expression changed. But you have another idea that needs to be added. I'm with them, and I have an ulterior motive, Shi Xiaotian said. You're with them, gain their trust, and then cheat them of top-quality equipment? Gu Fei asked. You could say it's a double-cross, Shi Xiaotian said. Gu Fei smiled. When he saw that Shi Xiaoyan's wrist was still in his hand, he quickly let go. Aren't you afraid that I'll mail it? Shi Xiaotian shook Frostbite's memory again. Then you don't have to let me see it, Gu Fei said. I let you see it, but I didn't say I would return it to you, Shi Xiaotian said. Besides, it's not yours, and I didn't cheat it from your friends, Shi Xiaotian said. How is it? You have nothing to say? Shi Xiaotian said. Gu Fei really had nothing to say. Shi Xiaotian was already a third party who handled Frostbite's memory. Remnant Dream and the other's despicable act of stealing equipment from Sword Demon was not something that Shi Xiaotian had to bear. Although, she probably didn't use any legitimate means. But in other words, if she used legitimate means to buy Frostbite's memory from Remnant Dream, how should she deal with it now? If this was in real life, you could say that Frostbite's memory was stolen property, and any transactions related to it weren't protected by the law. But in the game, at this moment, Gu Fei really had nothing to say. Haha, so there are times when you have nothing to say, Shi Xiaotian said proudly. He waved his hand and handed over Frostbite's memory. I'll give it back to you. You're so kind? Gu Fei took it and looked at it carefully, confirming that it wasn't a fake. Because that guy is your friend, Shi Xiaotian said. My face is really big. Gu Fei laughed. At least I don't hate him, Shi Xiaotian said. Gu Fei laughed. Also, it felt really good when you knocked over fiercely. I don't like that girl either, Shi Xiaotian said. If you said that earlier, I would have twisted her head off. Gu Fei's depression had already been swept away, and his mood was better than ever. In his heart, he didn't hate fiercely as much anymore. He was just playing along with Shi Xiaotian's intentions. Speaking of which, how did you get it? Gu Fei asked. I tricked it into coming back. Shi Xiaotian emphasized the word, tricked. I don't think you're interested in the process. Or, can you tell me? Gu Fei asked. It's very simple. I said before that I'm already in this organization. Even though I'm not an important member, I can use certain methods to make people think that I'm an important member. Shi Xiaotian said. Certain methods? Gu Fei repeated. Shi Xiaoyan looked at him. Tell me that your thoughts right now are pure. Actually, I don't have any thoughts at all. It's just a question. Gu Fei said. Certain methods, such as a fox assuming the tiger's might. You can think about it yourself. Shi Xiaotian said. Gu Fei nodded. I probably know. Then it's your role. Your pursuit has put a lot of pressure on him, but from the beginning to the end, he never understood why you wanted to kill him. Shi Xiaotian said. We deliberately hid it from him. Otherwise, he would definitely transfer Frostbite's memory. Gu Fei said. So, I told him. Shi Xiaotian smiled. Gu Fei suddenly understood. So, he gave Frostbite's memory to you? It's simple, isn't it? It's very simple in theory, but the difficulty is to gain his trust, right? Gu Fei said. When he's in a critical situation, I help him solve a problem. His trust in me will naturally increase. This is human inertia. Shi Xiaotian said. What did you help him solve? You didn't catch him, did you? Shi Xiaotian smiled. You hit him? Gu Fei suddenly understood. I just reminded him that he's a thief and should know how to sneak. Shi Xiaotian said. Gu Fei nodded. On that street, Gu Fei and Fiercely had an argument, which attracted a lot of attention. Especially when Gu Fei cruelly knocked over a beautiful girl, it was even more eye-catching. In this kind of situation, Gu Fei was being watched by too many people. It was simply impossible to pick out the stealthed remnant dream from among them. Now you understand, right? Shi Xiaotian said. What else do you want to say? Thanks. Gu Fei said. No need to thank me. Shi Xiaoyan smiled faintly. There will be times when you hate me. Is that so? Shi Xiaotian nodded. Chapter 110. Alright, everything's fine now, I'm leaving. Shi Xiaotian said. You tricked Frostbite's memories, they'll take revenge on you, right? Why don't you come with me for now? Gu Fei said. You don't have to worry about that, I have my ways. Shi Xiaotian smiled, turned around and left. Gu Fei stood there in a daze for a long time. You'll still hate me. These words kept repeating in his ears. He could vaguely understand the meaning of these words. Although she helped Gu Fei, Shi Xiaotian was still a liar. If Gu Fei felt that the liar's actions were shameless, he would still hate her in the end. Speaking of which, he was really unfair. When Shi Xiaotian tricked Frostbite's memories from Sword Demon's hands, he was filled with righteous indignation. Now that he tricked Frostbite's memories back, he was so excited and excited. Shi Xiaotian's words were very clear. Because Sword Demon was Gu Fei's friend, he returned Frostbite's memories. In other words, if this was another player's exquisite equipment, then he couldn't even think about it. From now on, it belonged to her, she shouted. If that was the case, what should he do? Gu Fei was at a loss. Just as he was thinking, a message came in the mercenary channel. How's everyone? Han family young master asked. Very good. Gu Fei replied. What do you mean? Han family young master asked. You can call it a day. Gu Fei said. Ah. Everyone was shocked. See you at Little Ray's bar. Gu Fei dropped this sentence and didn't reply. Such an exciting thing. Of course it would be interesting to say it in person, it wouldn't be funny to say it in the channel. Little Ray's bar was closer to the west gate, so Gu Fei was the first to arrive. Hi, Little Ray. Gu Fei, who had gone to Moonlit Night City, felt a sense of familiarity when he saw these familiar faces in Cloud City. Long time no see. Little Ray also greeted him with a smile. Because it was an online game, the rules of the game were different from reality. For example, in this tavern, the same people would come here several times a day and drink several times a day, which was very different from reality. Therefore, if some people didn't come even once a day, it could be said that they hadn't seen each other for a long time. How's business recently? It was rare to have a real waiter. There was no such opportunity to tease others in other pubs. Little Ray smiled. Same old. 6 glasses of wine. Gu Fei waved his hand and walked towards their usual private room. There's someone there, Little Ray quickly shouted. What? Gu Fei didn't hear it clearly and asked as he continued walking. The tavern was very noisy. If the two were a little further away, it would be easy to hear each other clearly. Before Little Ray could answer, Gu Fei had already opened the curtain of the private room. What a coincidence! Seeing the people in the private room, Gu Fei helplessly greeted them. It was the girls from Rebirth Amethyst. Fiercely sat in the middle with red eyes, as if he had just cried. July and Luoluo sat on his left and right, trying to comfort him. There was also Ice Glaze, sitting alone on the other side and fiddling with the corner of her clothes. She looked like she wanted to say something but didn't know what to say. As soon as Gu Fei entered, the 4 of them raised their heads. You guys talk, I'll go somewhere else. Gu Fei walked away. Don't go. July stood up. What's the matter? Gu Fei pretended not to know. Sit. July said. Ice Glaze moved a little to make room for Gu Fei. Thank you. Gu Fei smiled. Look at how nice this girl is, then look at fiercely. When he saw Gu Fei suddenly appear, he looked like he was about to cry again. His face was full of grievance, as if he could squeeze out sour water. Although after Frostbite's memory was retrieved, Gu Fei's reproach towards Fiercely had been greatly reduced, it didn't stop Gu Fei from feeling disgusted with this girl. Now that he sat down, although he didn't have a dark expression like when he was facing Fiercely, he didn't have any intention of comforting him. He raised his face and looked around as if nothing had happened. Even Glazed Ice, who was at the side, felt a little awkward. She tugged at the corner of Gu Fei's clothes and gave him a look. This girl is a kind-hearted person. Gu Fei sighed. However, with her character of being a fence-sitter and a peacemaker, she didn't have a clear position. When faced with this kind of situation, being stuck in the middle was always the most painful. In the spirit of saving Ice Glaze, Gu Fei opened his mouth and said, "Do you want something to drink?" After waiting for a long time for Gu Fei to say this sentence, everyone fainted. July calmed down. It seemed that it was impossible to wait for Gu Fei to take the initiative to talk about today's matter. This difficult task could only fall on her as the president. You two, what's going on? We're all on the same side. If there's something, say it clearly. Don't make it so stiff. July's words were very objective. She didn't want to help either side, which represented that she had always been impartial as the president. Luoluo continued, Fiercely is a bit impulsive. However, I'm sure she doesn't have any ill intentions. If she accidentally offended you, Qianli, and delayed your important matters, I'll apologize on her behalf first. Luoluo's words were much more powerful than July's. She lowered her stance and apologized first. At the same time, there was a hint of ridicule in her tone. This was a message to Gu Fei, my apology is not completely sincere. Moreover, shouldn't you also, Gu Fei suddenly felt funny. He suddenly realized that July and Luoluo, this pair, was somewhat similar to the combination of Sword Demon and Han Family Young Master. Sword Demon and Han Family Young Master. In the past games, Sword Demon was the leader and Han Family Young Master was the assistant. But based on Gu Fei's understanding of the two, although Sword Demon was the guild leader, most of the usual decisions and plans were probably made by Han Family Young Master. Han Family Young Master was a person who was relatively unpopular in terms of character. It was fine for a few acquaintances to form a small group like the current mercenary group. If he were to form a big guild, it would probably go bankrupt in a few days. On the other hand, Sword Demon was a person who was loyal, heroic, generous, and not calculative. Obviously, he was suitable to be the core role of uniting a group of people. He had done this role very well in Moonlit Night City. As a leader, sometimes temperament was more important than intelligence. Then he looked at July and Luoluo. Frankly speaking, Gu Fei hadn't sensed an aura from Chiyue that was as obvious as the sword ghouls. Although this girl often acted as if she was the guild leader and handled matters fairly, there were too many traces of her acting being deliberate. It was hard to believe that she was sincere. As for Luoluo, this girl, Gu Fei really felt that she was a powerful character. She handled things properly, didn't show her emotions, and could always hit the point with a few casual words. She was completely the kind of person who could be a guild leader. Qianli, what do you say? Gu Fei did not speak for a long time, and July asked again. Oh, it's fine. I've already forgiven her, Gu Fei answered casually. This time, even Luoluo almost fainted. Her obvious teasing was easily resolved by Gu Fei. However, this method of resolving didn't require any skills. He just had to be thick-skinned and act dumb. At this time, Gu Fei felt that it was funny again. Wasn't this fiercely known to be impulsive and hot-tempered? Why didn't he dare to say a word at this time, and let July and Luoluo stand up for him? TSK, paper tiger, paper tiger. If that's the case, Qianli, shouldn't you also apologize? She fell down on the street and made a big somersault. July was also helpless. Okay, she made the mistake first, so she should apologize first, Gu Fei said. Fiercely finally exploded, didn't I already apologize? This self-righteous look was really annoying to see. Gu Fei sighed and sneered, can you take some responsibility? Was it you who apologized just now? That was Luoluo speaking up for you. If Gu Fei's tone wasn't so contemptuous and his words weren't so contemptuous, perhaps Fiercely wouldn't be so persistent. But after all, this was his character. He was a person who wouldn't shed a tear until he saw the coffin. Ignoring the persuasion of July and Luoluo, he roared, don't stop me. I must ask, what did I do wrong? I ran to help you. Is this also wrong? Gu Fei was relieved. It turned out that Fiercely wasn't a paper tiger. It was only because of July and Luoluo's persuasion that he had been restraining himself. But having said this, Gu Fei didn't retreat and lightly said, what did I do wrong? Do you know, that guy stole my friend's high-quality dagger? I waited for him to get it and get close to me, but in the end, it was thrown away by you. Where can I find it again? Gu Fei's words weren't very imposing. After all, Frostbite's memories had already been taken back, and his heart was empty. These words made Fiercely speechless. She, July, and Luoluo had witnessed Gu Fei take Non-Smiler's dagger with his bare hands. Moreover, they now knew that Gu Fei had a few tricks up his sleeve. The opportunity he spoke of was indeed true. I don't know. Fiercely's arrogance disappeared and he began to defend himself. As long as he wasn't so self-righteous and took it for granted, he was still quite cute. Gu Fei looked at Fiercely's frightened and wronged appearance and thought to himself, Qianli, how is the dagger now? July asked. I don't know. Gu Fei said. He couldn't say that Frostbite's memories had already been taken back. This was something that Shi Xiaotian had tricked back. He didn't know if Shi Xiaotian had any other arrangements over there. If he were to casually expose it, it could very well bring trouble to her. Since that's the case, this dagger, I'll compensate your friend on behalf of Fiercely. July said. Everyone was shocked. At present, as long as the word high quality was hung on the equipment, it would be worth more than 1,000 gold. Gu Fei finally understood why July had the courage to take on the role of a guild leader. Just as he was about to say something, the curtain of the private room was suddenly lifted. "It's you?" the person and Luo Luo said together. Han family young master. Chapter 111. Gu Fei's first thought when he saw the Han family young master was, oh no. Currently, the only people who knew about his other identity were the young master group and Lu Xia. Other than that, the closest people to the truth were the reborn Amethyst girls. A mage, had been to Moonlit Night City, had good skills, and knew the Han family young master. The reborn Amethyst girls knew more and more coincidences. If all of them were put together, it would be enough evidence. Looking back, as expected, July and the others were staring at him strangely. I'm going to be exposed. Gu Fei thought to himself, but then he thought, being exposed doesn't seem to be that scary. The only people I've offended are the non-smilers and the Silver Moon Gang in Moonlit Night City. Currently, the public's image of 27,149 is still very healthy. The few big PK incidents were all caused by reason, and he wasn't a malicious PK. Most of the players who chased after 27149 were just curious or admiring him. They didn't have any ill intentions. If the non-smilers came to seek revenge, Gu Fei laughed. That would be great. Wouldn't there be endless fights? Just as he was enjoying himself, the Han family young master messed up Gu Fei's wishful thinking. Hiding his identity was the Han family young master's idea. Wearing a mask was also his idea. He had always been the one who cared the most about his identity being exposed. At this moment, how could he show any flaws? He looked around at the crowd and smiled indifferently. Why are there so many people? Ignoring the girls, he lowered his head and said to Gu Fei, "We've helped you get the thing you wanted." The Han family young master pretended to make a deal with Gu Fei. At this moment, Gu Fei was like an employer who had found the young master group. He's too cunning. Gu Fei. Of course, he didn't want to expose the Han family young master who had kindly helped him cover up. He could only continue to talk. Oh, where is it? I don't have it. It will be sent to you in a while. Han family young master said primly. Thank you so much. Gu Fei acted numbly. Han family young master nodded. You guys talk first. I'll look for you later. After that, he bade farewell to them and left. Luo Luo then stood up and lifted the curtain to look outside. She then chased after them and returned after a while. How is it? July seemed a little nervous or excited. Luo Luo shook her head. He's still alone. July looked disappointed. Even fiercely echoed, what a pity. At this moment, the trivial matter between Gu Fei and Fiercely had been tossed beyond the highest heavens by them. What are you doing? Gu Fei asked even though he already knew the answer. Qianli, you hired them to help your friend get back the thing, right? July asked Gu Fei. Gu Fei nodded. Child elite group. July murmured, do you know who the members are? Gu Fei shook his head. 27149. Have you heard of this code name? July asked again. Yes, Gu Fei said. He seems to be a pretty powerful sorcerer. Pretty powerful? He's very powerful. He's the most powerful. I don't think anyone can be more powerful than him. Fiercely yelled. That look of worship made Gu Fei very uncomfortable. Sister, that's me too. If I'm exposed one day, how are you going to face me? Gu Fei thought. Besides, I know I'm super powerful. I'm just being humble. Gu Fei thought to himself. Gu Fei was confident in his own strength, but if he were to be complimented by Fiercely, although others wouldn't know that Gu Fei was complimenting him, he would still be shocked. This 27149 is a member of Child Elite Group. July said. Gu Fei responded. He didn't know if his current expression was appropriate. After all, he wasn't an actor. The incident with Don't Laugh in Cloud City was actually caused by me. After that, we asked this Child Elite Group for help. July told Gu Fei about the past. She thought Gu Fei didn't know. In fact, if they were to give awards for this incident, Gu Fei would definitely get the Best Participation Award, Best Actor Award, Most Patient Award, Most Ruthless Award, and many other awards. And looking at the current development, the Lifetime Achievement Award was also Gu Fei's in the bag. So that's how it is, that's how it is. Listening to July, Gu Fei could only nod and agree. I really want to know this strong person, but unfortunately, I don't have the chance. July sighed. There will be a chance, there will be a chance. Gu Fei said. July only treated it as a polite remark and didn't take it seriously. She smiled and said, I hope so. At present, if we want to know this person, we can only rely on that Han family young master. But this person is too careful. Just like when he came to talk to you, he came alone and didn't know who his companions were. Luluo said. It turned out that she went out to see if anyone was with the Han family young master. Gu Fei sighed. If he guessed correctly, the sword demon and the others must be next door, or at most next door. As for the person they wanted to see the most, he was right in front of them. But from the looks of it, it's not wrong that he's used to this tavern. He came here several times when he made a deal with us, and now he also came here to make a deal with Qianli. Luo said to July. July nodded. This place is also very close to our guild. If you have nothing to do, you can come here often. Right? Luo suddenly patted her head and said excitedly, if he is a regular, little Ray should know him. Maybe he also knows who he is with. July's eyes lit up. She quickly came over and lifted the curtain to wave at little Ray. Little Ray hurried over. Miss, what do you want? Being modest and cautious was little Ray's usual style. Gu Fei's heart was in his throat. Although he wasn't worried about exposing his identity, wasn't it too embarrassing to be exposed like this? I just came here and went out for a while. He looks very beautiful. Do you recognize him? July couldn't find the right words to describe young Master Han's beautiful face that seemed to have been distorted in time and space. Oh, Han family young master? Little Ray nodded. You know him. July was excited. Are you looking for him for business? I can introduce you to him. Child Elite Group is indeed the most powerful mercenary group in Cloud City. If you have a task, you can find them. In addition, you can also find them for some unusual behavior. Little Ray said, unusual behavior? For example, whitewashing. Little Ray said in a small voice. For help quests, players could directly go to the mercenary hall to issue a request for investment. The system would automatically provide the relevant information. As for things like whitewashing between players, first of all, it wouldn't have a good influence. Second of all, making an open request for investment in the mercenary hall was equivalent to telling the target in advance. There was no surprise at all. Third, the system god wouldn't publicly support this type of thing, so the system couldn't comment on this type of thing. There was a limit to the trust between people in the game. The most common method of mercenary group quests was for players to issue quests in the mercenary guild and pay the system guild first. At this time, after the mercenary group received it, everyone went to do the quest together. When the player completed the quest, the mercenary group could receive the player's payment from the mercenary guild. Whether the quest was completed or not, the system could read your quest list. As for things like whitewashing and hunting, the system couldn't determine it. Dying from monsters in the leveling area, dying from PK, there were so many ways to die that the system didn't know how to calculate. That was why it was called unusual behavior. These kinds of behavior quests were usually done by players in private and didn't involve the system's assistance. July and the others had never heard of this term. As for this behavior, it was like this when they bought the young master group to deal with Non-Smiler. We don't have any quests right now. We just want to ask if you know the situation of his mercenary group. July said expectantly. Or rather, who does he often meet here? Gu Fei wasn't idle at this time. He was frantically trying to add little Ray as a friend in an attempt to private message him, but the other's friend's switch wasn't turned on. At this time, July's question had hit the nail on the head. He could only resign himself to fate. I don't know. Little Ray actually shook his head. You don't know? July was speechless. Gu Fei was also abnormally surprised. This time, his expression was definitely not fake. I haven't seen any familiar faces around him. Little Ray said, July's face was full of disappointment. Then I'll have to trouble you. Do you guys want to drink anything? Little Ray's businessman face came. They were sitting in a private room of Little Ray's bar, but they hadn't ordered any drinks yet. Now that he was asking all sorts of questions, it was rather inexcusable. July ordered the drinks and handed over the money. Wait a moment. Little Ray stepped back and opened the curtain. When he turned back, he saw that Gu Fei was still looking at him. The corner of his mouth rose and he winked. Han family young master had already informed him. Gu Fei sighed. This guy's thinking was really far-sighted. Lua Lua wanted to compare with him, but in the end, she was still a step slower. Not long after, Little Ray's drinks were served, and everyone had a glass. At this time, everyone was thinking about Child Elite Group and 27149. Their original intention of sitting together had already been forgotten. This was the spirit of a gorgeous story. It was said that when women chatted together, they would be so imaginative. The atmosphere was cold. July picked up her glass and took a sip. The yearning and melancholy she had when talking about 27,149 had already disappeared. Gu Fei looked at her and knew that she was going to bring up the past again. He hurriedly raised his glass as well. You guys heard it too. The dagger has been retrieved, so everything is fine now. Everyone doesn't need to apologize. We're still good brothers. Fiercely, does it hurt? Ah? It doesn't hurt. Fiercely said. And that's good. Come. Everyone cheers. Gu Fei shouted. The girls were stunned for a moment, then raised their glasses and clinked them against the center of the table. Gu Fei was the first to drink. Okay, I'll be leaving first. Gu Fei put down his glass and stood up. The girls didn't say anything else and waved their hands. Gu Fei saw that Ice Glaze, who hadn't spoken a word, took a sip and was about to put it down shyly. He smiled and said, Classmate Xiao Bing, cheers. After saying that, he rolled up the curtain and left. Chapter 112. After leaving the private room, Gu Fei turned a corner and went through the private rooms to look for them one by one. As expected, he saw the 5 members of the elite group in the next room. I knew you guys would be here. Gu Fei said. Be honest. What's the relationship between you and those women? Last time, I felt that you were very protective of them. Han family young master said. I just know them. Gu Fei said. Everyone continued to stare at him expressionlessly. It's true. Gu Fei said. Leniency for those who are honest, severity for those who resist. Everyone said in unison. Shh. Be quiet, they haven't left yet. Do you know, they've been trying to find out the identity of our mercenary group members. They said they admire us. Gu Fei said. These gossipy women. Han family young master sighed. Yutian, where are you going? Gu Fei saw Yutian Shenming sneakily stand up. Nothing, just walking around. Yutian Shenming said as he wanted to walk out. Catch him. Han family young master yelled. Unscathed in battle stood up and reached out to pull Yutian Shenming back to his seat. Comrades, it's a guild of beautiful women. It's rare for them to admire us so much. Shouldn't we give them a chance? Yutian Shenming said in pain. Everyone snorted. Gu Fei habitually looked down on him. That's right. Yutian, you're too immature. Unscathed in battle lectured Yutian Shenming. See, this is a mature man. Gu Fei looked at Unscathed in battle with admiration. Unscathed in battle turned around. Qianli, I don't care who these women are or what your relationship is with them. I just want to ask. What? Gu Fei said. When are you going to introduce us? Gu Fei was speechless. Among the 6 members of Gongzi mercenary group, the one Gu Fei was least familiar with was Unscathed in battle. Unscathed in battle was a man of few words. He came quietly, sat down, left quietly and left. In terms of age, Unscathed in battle seemed to be on a different level from everyone else. Gu Fei guessed that he would not have much in common with the others outside of the game, so he was very quiet. However, Gu Fei had always used Yutian Shenming as a reference and regarded Unscathed in battle as a role model of maturity. This was not wrong. From this, one could see the difference between the two of them. Yutian Shenming wanted to take advantage of her admiration for him. It was obvious that he had the mentality of a child who was eager for quick success. On the other hand, Unscathed in Battle wanted to get to know her through Gu Fei. This was a fucking traditional way of thinking for a blind date. However, no matter what, the two of them basically had the same goal, which was to pick up girls. What's the point of doing this? Wushang, while she's curious about us, let's quickly go over and say that we're from Child Elite Group. If we miss this opportunity, there won't be another one. Yutian Shenming quickly suggested. It looked like he wanted to team up with Unscathed in Battle to complete the task of picking up girls. You two are going together? Gu Fei laughed, but he swallowed the words he wanted to say. In the end, Han family young master mercilessly said what Gu Fei was thinking. Where are you two standing? The old one is older and the young one is younger. Aren't you afraid that she'll treat you as father and son? Picking up girls' father and son team? That's an awesome title. I think you guys can give it a try. Brother, you also laughed. Unscathed in Battle and Yutian Shenming looked at each other. Fucking stupid uncle, stay away from me. Yutian Shenming said. Fucking stupid Zheng Tai, you're the one staying away from me. Unscathed in Battle said. Alright, you two don't need to waste your time. These women are only interested in the mages in our group. Han family young master said. Chenli, you want to hog it all to yourself. Unscathed in Battle and Yutian Shenming glared at Gu Fei together. Wushang. Gu Fei said with pain, your image in my heart is completely ruined today. Image is precious, but love is even more valuable. Unscathed in Battle recited a poem. Fuck, I should have chosen to be a mage. Yutian Shenming was filled with regret and hatred. This isn't a problem with your profession, it's a problem with your temperament. Gu Fei patted him. Brother, you couldn't take it anymore. Oh my god. Is modesty a virtue or not? The mercenary group started a verbal duel. They mocked, attacked, slandered, and looked down on each other until Sword Demon asked, Qianli, why did you call us here? His voice wasn't loud, and the content was extremely plain, but it was powerful and resonating. When everyone heard this, they immediately quieted down and felt a wave of shame. Especially Gu Fei, who had just floated over from the circle of the reincarnated amethyst girl. Wasn't it a woman's specialty to go astray? How could a group of men like us do this? Everyone was reflecting on themselves. In the end, Gu Fei took out Frostbite's memories and handed it to Sword Demon. He really got it back. Everyone was surprised. Gu Fei smiled. A miracle? Sword Demon exclaimed. Is that necessary? Everyone looked askance at him. If this was a miracle, then what did it mean for Sword Demon to explode after being killed once? Frostbite's memories, I've lost it 3 times so far, and I got it back all 3 times. If this isn't a miracle, then what is? Sword Demon sighed. Everyone was surprised. The probability of this happening was so low that it could indeed be called a miracle. All 3 times thanks to Qianli, Sword Demon said. Gu Fei was stunned. In his memory, there were only 2 times that were related to him. On second thought, it suddenly dawned on him. It turned out that Sword Demon had counted the PK with him. At that time, Sword Demon's Frostbite's memories was indeed taken away by Gu Fei. The others didn't have anything to say about this. As the people who understood Gu Fei's strength the most, they were already numb to Gu Fei's strength. Especially after Yutian Shenming introduced Gu Fei's Moonlight Spirit Robe and Dark Night Flowing Light Sword to them, everyone could only gasp in admiration. Gu Fei was strong for a reason, but he was strong to the point of being innocent. For them, who had always been at the top of the online gaming world, having a character like this clearly pressuring them made them quite unhappy. But fortunately, this person was everyone's friend and wasn't an annoying person, which made it easy for everyone to accept. Now that we're done with business, can we continue talking about those beauties? Yutian Shenming asked. What beauties? Where did they come from? That guild has 20 girls, and there are only a few that look good, Gu Fei said. 20. You know all of them? Yutian Shenming was shocked. Alright, I'll be honest, I am also a member of Reincarnated Amethyst. Gu Fei said. What? This was the most shocking news of the day. Even when the sword demon was killed, the reaction wasn't this strong. Doesn't that guild only accept women? Yutian Shenming said. It's a misunderstanding, Gu Fei said regretfully. I accidentally responded to their guild and ended up joining. The guild has always had the lowest number of people, so they wouldn't let me leave. Why didn't this kind of misunderstanding happen to me? Why do you want to leave? Yutian Shenming said. Because it seems like they don't welcome me, Gu Fei said. Yeah, it's probably because of their temperament. If it was me, the situation would definitely be different. Yutian Shenming imagined the feeling of being held in the palms of the girls. Everyone looked at him with disdain. But recently their number has exceeded 21, so I'm thinking of leaving. Gu Fei said. He had originally given up on this idea, but after what happened with Fiercely today, Gu Fei felt that it was better not to continue staying. It seemed like he didn't get along well with the girls. The main reason was that Gu Fei didn't have much of a gentleman's culture of ladies first. This was related to his background. He came from a martial arts family, and the atmosphere was more conservative. It was obvious that men were superior to women. Fortunately, Gu Fei was of the new generation, so he was more receptive to new ideas. But in the end, the environment he grew up in was still the same. Under the influence of what he saw and heard, the new ideas and the old culture neutralized each other, forming Gu Fei's own attitude. It was absolute equality between men and women. Gu Fei treated girls and men equally. If he attacked girls, it seemed like Gu Fei would have some misgivings, or he would go easy on them. But that wasn't because the other party was a girl, but because the girl's body was a bit weaker. If Gu Fei met a weak man, he would also have the same considerations. Why should I leave? It was obvious that Gu Fei's way of thinking was completely unreasonable to people like Yutian Shenming. Kid, you don't understand. Gu Fei said. Fuck. Yutian Shenming was furious. If it isn't too troublesome, you shouldn't leave. Han Family Young Master suddenly said. Why? Gu Fei asked. We're in the mercenary business, so we need many sources of information. I'm more supportive of everyone infiltrating the big guilds. Just like last time, Yutian Shenming in Unhindered 4Cs provided us with a lot of information and convenience. I believe that everyone hasn't forgotten, right? Han Family Young Master said. Everyone nodded. With our strength, it shouldn't be hard to infiltrate any of the guilds. It's just that this type of pure female guild is a bit troublesome. Qianli, since you have the qualifications to stay in there, then stay. Han Family Young Master said. It's just a small guild of 20 people. Gu Fei said. Don't look down on it. This type of pure female guild naturally has its own specialties. Han Family Young Master said. The in-game experts nodded their heads in agreement with Young Master Han as if they were experienced people. If that's the case, then we'll stay for now. Gu Fei said. Yutian Shenming nodded his head. What you need to do right now is to quickly find out information about the 20 girls inside. For example, their height, 3 measurements, etc. Then bring it up as soon as possible. Gu Fei's face turned cold. Is this the reason why I'm in this guild? Han Family Young Master said helplessly. Sometimes yes, but at least it's the holographic era now. Gathering information isn't that hard. If it's an experienced wolf, just looking at them would be enough to get the job done. Scram. Gu Fei clearly didn't want to do these things. Alright, if there's nothing else, then go do your own things. Han Family Young Master said. Come, Qianli, I want to have a good talk with you. Unscathed in battle dragged Gu Fei out. Wait for me. Yutian Shenming immediately chased after him. Sword Demon put away his dagger and stood up. What are you going to do? Han Family Young Master asked. Level up, kill those scum. Sword Demon said. Level up first, we'll discuss the rest later. Han Family Young Master said. Sword Demon nodded his head and left. What about you? Han Family Young Master looked at Brother Yu. I recently received some news from the forum moderator. Parallel World is about to officially start operations. Brother Yu said. Han family young master's expression changed. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.